Okay. I have to switch off one of my systems. Are we?
We're live streaming, we're recording, the program has started. Ball's in your court.
Awesome. Joshua? All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Juliet Miabo. I am co-hosting, and I'm also one of the speakers today, one of the presenters. It's an exciting day today because anything to do with young people involves excitement, it involves energy, and this is one of those areas where I feel that this seminar or this discussion should actually represent what youth is all about. As we look at the issues of, well, firstly on the International Youth Day, it's critical that we bring back into the picture the story of Africa. As I sit here, I sit in South Africa. I sit in the northern part of Johannesburg. I do most of my work in the townships or in the marginalized communities of South Africa. As someone who's in South Africa, I believe we are sitting there not just as not as a pillar, but almost like as an anchor for the rest of Africa. And this discussion, when we say Africa, we're talking not just Africa geographically, but Africa including the diaspora. So my part now is to welcome everyone and then say that we're grateful for days like this. In June in South Africa, we had the National Youth Month, and this comes right in time because that was a very interesting time where issues of self-definition become very critical for us as the children of the soil. So as Juliet Miabo, I will further briefly introduce myself when I do make my speech. I would like, seeing that I'm assisting Josh, I'd like Josh to continue, maybe to introduce the next speaker. And I'd like to say welcome to everyone. Welcome to the people in the youth space, in the tourism space, and thank you, African Youth in Tourism, for hosting such a critical and important seminar. And yeah, this is actually, there could never be a better time than now. And now is the time for us to start having such discussions. Welcome, everyone. And I'd like to hand over to Josh to introduce the speakers. Or we're going to do this the African way, which means we are being communal. So I'm just limited because my one system has my presentation, so I'm not able to see who's online, but I will find the people online. So we'll do it the African way, which is the communal way, meaning that we are all going to be participants. So the communal way, it means we are all going to be participants. So looking at us, see, Michelle, I was listening to your discussions earlier on, and they were quite exciting. If we can just keep up that momentum, and I just feel that what you were touching on is also quite critical, maybe as a way of breaking the ice, and for me to check the next speaker or the next speaker to be ready to introduce themselves. You could actually maybe just for a minute touch on that, because that's quite exciting, the discussions you were having earlier.
Yes, I really enjoyed meeting Marion Allen this morning. We said hi, and I received her energy, absolutely. And so I asked her right away, as she's a teacher, and it was really neat to find out that she's creating a Black History Museum in Laurel, Mississippi. So I'm very courage about that, and I took notes about what she was saying and listening to how she just walked out there on faith and said, you know what, if we need a place, she needs a place to, we all as a community absolutely need a place to see all these artifacts that she have, not just her children. So that was really great. And absolutely, so it just brings sunshine to the day. And as we know, every day is a new day for learning. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know Regina is the first person that's going to speak today. I saw that note from Joshua, and it's exciting to meet all you all. And thank you again, Andrew Williams Jr. He sent a text to me, and he knows I'm a teacher of 23 years. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's World Youth Day. Let me hurry up and make arrangements so I could be online at 9 o'clock today. I can make it happen. And I'm so
Yes.
excited to be here. Absolutely.
Yes. No, that is awesome, and I love that, because I love the way you picked up on what Madam Miriam was saying, and because every day is a new day for learning. The African Black History Museum, all that you're saying, it's so critical, because one of the things I'm going to be saying later on is that we have to start telling and writing our own stories, or someone else will. Miriam, do you want to say something before the next the speaker gets ready to present? We'll give you a minute, please. Miriam Ellen, madam.
Yes, I'm just excited to be here. As I told Ms. Farrell, yes, I felt
Supposed to be. You'll have to.
Prince
Andrew.
Prince Andrew, I'm going to have to mute you. Believe it or not, I'm going to
Yes, and then we'll. Perfect.
Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew. Can you hear me?
Well, tell me, are we ready to begin recording? We're already live streaming.
He's on a double date here, so let me just make him away. Sorry, everyone.
The recording is in progress, and the floor is yours.
Okay.
Hello. Hi.
Yes, Regina, are you able to speak to him? I was about to send me a message, but I think we're all good now.
Yes.
We're all good. Yes, so.
Well, yes, well, thank you. First, I'm Andrew Williams Jr. I'm honored and pleased to be here. I've been a supporter of Global Peace Let's Talk for many years, and I'll be doing so for the last of my living breath. So this is nothing new to me. But with the case of Dr. Arjaman Zaidi, she has been a Goodwill Ambassador for 5 Points Youth Foundation, based here in the United States since 2015. Even more important, she is the
sorry about that. I have to send him a message.
Madam Juliet, this is Joe.
Oh,
yes, make me the host or make me the co-host so I can manage things.
Okay, were you able to mute Prince Andrew?
Make me the co-host or the host so I can manage things. I'm here with you.
Oh, good. No, I'm going to make you a host and co-host everything so that this yoke can be off my shoulders. All right, let me do that. Please guide me again. Oh God. Okay. Apologies for that. Okay, coming. Where do I go to participants?
I've seen that you can't do that. It's only the host that can do that. Don't worry, no worries. I would reach out to Ambassador Andrew so that he can give me that access.
Yes, because I'm only a co-host. I'm only a co-host. Okay. Okay, please reach out to him. But now that we have that moment of silence on his part, maybe Madam Miriam can continue to introduce. Don't let that interference kill your spark. Please, let's keep it going. All right, please continue.
United States of America. I'm Marion Allen, and I am sitting over here in Laurel, Mississippi. By career, I am a social worker. That's what here is, but my interest has always been African-American art. And so for several years, I have had what was known as a mobile museum, which has gone to different churches and schools and community events where I start African-American history in Egypt, and then I work my way to enslavement, all the way until I get around to the famous people here in Laurel, Mississippi, and Jones County. So last week, I was so fortunate and blessed that a man in the community gave me a home, is allowing me to utilize a home to place all of this African art in. And so finally we have a museum location, and I'm looking to have it up and running by February the 1st here in Laurel, Mississippi. So I'm asking everyone to send what you can, send artifacts or send me a fan, some beads, something that recognizes our culture, and so that it can be placed in the museum for all to see. Like I was telling Miss Farrow, this museum was just in my house, and my children would always joke and say, oh, our home is like a museum. And she stated, they're all here to educate. And so I decided, instead of me harboring all of these things in my house, to show them to the world, to show them, because a lot of youth, they just don't know. Just like this little item here. This is what's known as a nigger Bible. Actually has it right on the back. And so they don't know. They haven't seen this. Kids, what is that? And so that is why this museum is so important for me to get it up and running, because this is how they viewed us. Yeah. And so show this, but yet let the children be able to see where we have evolved from.
Yeah. Exactly.
People with lots of talent, we have accomplished a lot in the world, but our children, our youth have no idea.
Exactly. No, that's very relevant. And it then means is, what it means is that then they cannot take for granted the freedoms that they should be maintaining. And at times, unless they know that history, they won't even see their freedom as actually something of value. They will take it for granted as in, oh, that's the way it's supposed to be. It is the way it's supposed to be, but then they must realize that as things happen, the George Floyd situation, the things that happen in the whole of Africa are actually a repetition of exactly where that mask comes from, where that sculpture comes from. You know, so what you are saying is actually, we are saying it's not just about appreciation and knowing, but actually internalizing the past, and so that you make sure it does not repeat itself, you know, and thank you so much for that. You will be getting a lot from South Africa as well. We'll have the discussion. Okay, Josh, are you able to see if the next speaker is here? But before we go to those formalities, we're doing things the African way today. We just want, Regina, do you want to greet as well? Just basically, you don't have to do the long introduction, but just to greet and say hello, and everyone else, then we start. In an African culture, you greet first before you start even saying why you are there, before you even ask for food. And in the Swati culture, you might spend 15 minutes greeting. By the time you ask for water, you might even be dead. So let's all greet. Please greet Regina and everyone else. Regina?
Hi, yes, my name is Regina Salas, and I'm the founder of the JBS Foundation, Inc. The foundation is in honor of my late grandfather. He was a civil rights activist in Miami-Dade County. Also, I sit on the board for African Youth and Tourism. And my goal is to break the chain of mass poverty and help our youth grow and evolve and change, so I can change the world for the next generation.
Amen to that, amen to that. No, we got to change it. We've got to change the world, and it's all in our hands, and it's all now. Thank you so much, Regina. I'm going to start with the women, the anchors of society, and say, Doris Maria Wolfel, please greet.
Yes, good evening, everybody from South Africa. And yeah, thank you very much for inviting me today to this very special event. Yes, shall I introduce myself or telling everybody what I'm doing, or
yes,
shall I do that later?
No, yeah, for now it's just a greeting, just a one-sentence greeting, yes. Later you'll do the full introduction. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you good? Okay, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. And also, Sister Usmo Lebocheng, it's your turn to greet.
Greetings, greetings, fellow Africans. Good evening, how are you?
We well, thank you. How are you? We're happy to hear your voice.
I'm so sorry I'm not visible because I'm on load shedding, so the ecotourism center is dark. I was hoping it was gonna be during the day, but we're in the dark for now.
Okay.
Thank you very much for having us, and we appreciate the platform and the network, especially for our rural communities that need to be brought on board on what is happening currently globally with our culture and the economies that we would seek to grow and liberate for the future. I'm Sister Lebocheng. I'm a young Rasta woman, I'm a mother, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm the founder of Biko Land Creations, which is a social enterprise that is operating in the circular economy, where we collect leather waste and we facilitate leather craft skills workshops to rural women and youth. And we teach them the basics of starting your own business and how to create cultural economies using our culture and craft. So in a nutshell, I'm a cultural activist, and I like to preserve our cultural practices and find as best as possible ways to develop those economies for rural areas, especially with linkage to traditional authorities and our royalty, which are the custodians of our culture.
All right.
That's a snippet of who and what we are doing in this African cultural space.
All right.
Thank you.
Osmo Lebocheng, thank you for that. You've already taken 5 minutes of your presentation, but it's fun. We'll keep going. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll keep it going. All right. But welcome. You did it the Siswati way, where the introduction takes, or the greeting takes 10 minutes, but it's all good. Welcome, we're all African here. And now we can now move to, okay, we can now, I'm not sure if people sign, okay, it's a mistake. Okay, what we'll do is we'll ask, Patrick, you can greet, please. Do it the proper way and just greet, say who you are, the country you're in, and that's all. Thank you. I know you're from Malawi, my brother.
Yes, thank you so much, my sister Juliet. Yeah, greetings everyone. This is Patrick from Malawi. Our time now is 18:31 p.m. So I greet you from United African Diaspora, as well as one of the founder of an organization, a local organization, which we call Transform Youth Life Foundation or Tri-Life Foundation. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Prince Andrew, I see your hand is up, so I do have to allow you to also greet, because what we were doing, we were just doing the protocol, the African protocol of people greeting, and then we jumped straight into presentations. So do you want to greet, or are you going to?
Actually, I wanted to welcome everyone here, and I want to congratulate you on this wonderful work we're doing. We are streaming this. Those of you who are at a computer can just simply go up to where it says Facebook and copy that link and share it wherever you want. But I'm turning this over to Joseph Akinola. I'm leaving. I have to host another event, but I wanted to just tell you I love you all, and I look forward to connecting with you later. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We love you and appreciate you, Prince Andrew. I guess I'm echoing what everyone else should say. I forgot this is not church. We all can say that at the same time. Thank you so much. And then we, Joseph, can you just make sure that you are host so that you can assist for any technicalities before Prince Andrew disappears? Joseph, please confirm.
I'm with you, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, please ensure that you are now host. All right. And then we'll continue to the next greeting. And we're keeping the greetings to a minute now, no longer 2 minutes. I'm not generous anymore. I'm going to start with my Honorable Ambassador Chaplain James. Please greet Ambassador.
Greetings, the Honorable and the Honorables in the house. It's a pleasure being here. I'm so grateful. I saw this link that Ambassador Andrew shared on the platform, so I have to come online to see my people and to join the conversation. So thank you for having me on board. So greetings to everybody. Thank you.
Yes. Greetings, greetings. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. It's always an honor to have you. Thank you. And then we are going to go to my fellow South African, my associate and colleague, Mr. Hendrik van der Merwe. Please greet.
Hello, everybody. I'm van der Merwe from South Africa. It's very nice to be in your presence tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. That is Moyo Omejo. Yes, you can correct me later. Don't correct me here in public. But that's one of our African languages, Afrikaans, here in South Africa. I'm actually trying to say to him, it is good to have him here as well. Okay, welcome, Mr. Hendrik. And which other? Oh, I see. Before I go to the other gentleman, can Queen, is it Princess Enikiwe? We are just greeting. So it's not really introductions. You'll introduce when you do your presentation. Just do your greeting, and then we siyabulisa siyenza isintu. So we greet first before we go to the business of the day. Unmute yourself, please. Unmute. Please unmute yourself, Josh, please. Oh.
I'm told to greet, I'll do that. Molweni.
Molweni. Yes. Abshen.
Yes, Princess Nikki, we're here. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Okay, welcome, welcome, Princess Nikki. We look forward to your presentation as well. Okay, going back to the gentleman. Welcome, and then let's see, Josh, do you want, okay, yeah, not Joseph, Josh, do you want to greet 1 minute? Knowing you, I'm going to make it half a minute. Please greet. Unmute yourself, Joshua. Okay, can unmute yourself. Okay, he's indicating that we must move on. Joseph, all the names from the Bible. Please go ahead, Joseph, and just greet.
All right, greetings everyone. I'm Joseph Akinola, humanitarian and a media professional from Lagos, Nigeria. It's a great privilege to be here. Thank you.
Okay, awesome, great, thank you, thank you. Okay, we guess Joshua is not able to speak where he is. Hopefully, by the time he presents, he'll be able to speak. I don't think I've forgotten anyone, Nichelle. Am I leaving out anyone? I don't think so. Please confirm with me, Nichelle.
Have we heard from Doris?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying yes as in yes. Please, Doris, please do greet.
I have greeted already everybody.
Yes, right. I couldn't see your face. Yeah, right. I would remember.
Hi, everybody.
Clearly, we're not having enough of you. Okay.
Looks
okay,
like.
Right.
Thank you.
And I think we're all good. And according to the program, which I don't have in front of me, which you have, Nichelle, in front of you, who would be our first speaker? And if they can indicate their readiness.
I saw a chat that it said that Regina was supposed to be first.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Okay. Welcome. We hand over to you. Please go ahead, Regina.
No problem. Today we're supposed to, in regards to our role models. My role models are Jackie Kennedy Onassis and Congresswoman Ferguson. They're my role. Jackie Kennedy is my role model. She was the first lady to ever be a Black president inside of the White House. And that was the president of Ivory Coast. And she restored the White House. She was the youngest first lady one of the youngest first ladies in the history of the United States, but she was one of the women. She restored the White House. She brought the history. She did it under budget. She was able to get all of the items as donations, and she put on a televised tour of the White House. So she made the White House museum, and she was the first ever first lady to do that, to restore the White House. And she was the first lady to put a garden there, the Rose Garden, which is still pivoting to this day. And first ladies have come to her and also keep up the restoration of the White House, by bringing historic pieces in of old presidents, their furniture, their different things like that. So that's and I'm a real history junkie. So the fact that she was able to bring in all of those pieces and restore the White House and give us the rich history. And she turned it into a museum, so that we're walking in the White House and we're seeing history, not just furniture, so that we can know the knowledge and know what's behind it. And a lot of people don't know that. They just know that she redid the White House, but they don't know the historic component to it and the wealth that she brought to it and the rich in history, not just rich in money, but rich in history. And our history is there inside of the White House because of Jackie Kennedy Onassis. So that's one of my role models. I call her my forerunner, because a forerunner is someone that you look at and you idolize, and you look at the way that they paved before us so that we can be able to thrive and grow and get ideas to do the same thing. My goal is to restore the city of Opa-locka, which is in Opa-locka, and it has the largest collection of Moorish architectural art in the Western Hemisphere. So I've watched and studied Jackie very closely, seeing that she was able to do that, and she was so young, so influential. I'm young as well, so I know anything is possible and anything can be done. Do anyone have any questions or any input to what I just said?
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful description of Jackie Kennedy. I still have...
I'm not finished. You just want to know that anyone has.
Can I suggest you go straight to the end of your presentation, and then we can have engagements at the end, and that can link us to the next speaker, please.
Okay,
that
perfect.
Way, then we have a sense that your time is already taken up, and then I can manage other inputs, please.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Continue.
Jackie Kennedy, that's one of my role models, and Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, she's my next role model. Actually, I've known her my whole entire life, so that's close knit. Her and my grandfather were best friends since high school. So I was able to watch the path that she paved. Frederica Wilson has an organization called the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence, and she's a woman. And her goal is to keep the guys from going into the detention center and in a prison system. So she gets them when they're in middle school and in high school, and she molds them into what they need to be and cultivate them in society as young men. And for a woman to be doing that, I think that is very pivotal, and it speaks volumes. She's got so many men stand behind her movement, from Tyler Perry to different people, to be able to push back and pour into our young men. It started at the 500 role models, but it grew so large that it's now the 5,000 role models. So she has broke glass ceilings and broke records and paved the way for us coming behind her. And yes, those are my two role models. One that's close to me and one that I watch just by studying history. So that's the end.
Okay, no, that's awesome. No, I'm excited because I really wanted to say something about Jackie Kennedy, and I'm insisting on calling her Jackie Kennedy because I was introduced to her sitting right in Soweto as a child by my grandmother. She loved Jackie Kennedy, and growing up, also getting into history, I started appreciating the role that she played as a first lady. I think she set a standard. So I'm glad you've raised her. And what it then does for me, the only comment that I'd like to say is, it is important to recognize the women, whether they're princesses or queens and other leaders, women leaders, who contribute to the definition and the description of who we are as people. Yes, but I will allow comments from across. Any comments, please, linked to that, because she touched on something I'm very excited about. And what it also says that the history and the impact that she's made, we then as young people, and I work with youth, so I put myself in that. I'm the oldest youth you can find, but we as young people have to take it upon ourselves to bring out that significance, so that she mustn't be known just for fashion. I mean, I know her for her fashion and her style, but also bring out the other critical elements of her role as a first lady, so that it is clear that women leaders are not just about looking pretty and making the places look pretty, but are significant in describing the history and also determining where we're going as a people. Any other comments? Thank you. I keep looking on the right because I have to use the other monitor as well. I'm very good at picking people. I'm just going to pick Miriam. Please say something, even if it's a sentence, about that input from Regina.
The input that Regina gave, it was very interesting, and I'm glad to have that knowledge about the museum, because as you stated, we just know her for her pillbox hat and being there, standing and walking behind the casket and those things, but they never really highlight that. So I'm thankful that Regina highlighted that point, because this video can go further than our conversation today, and then it'll enhance someone else's knowledge.
Not only that, she held the nation together when John F. Kennedy passed away. She planned out that whole funeral, and she did it with poise and regal grace, and she impeccable.
No, true. Her grace, her poise, and also, I mean, the blood stain on her dress. You know, I believe and hope that that dress is, or that suit is in a museum somewhere. Because whenever I think of that day and what happened the day JF Kennedy died, one of the most vivid pictures is her walking around trying to stay calm after that significant moment, and all you could see, the pain that she could be feeling was mainly represented by the blood on her clothes, because she tried to stay poised and to stay calm, but that is where her grace came in. But thank you for highlighting those things. And it also goes back to issues of values, that those values and that women have in our history should be celebrated and be passed on, because as much as we have to fight and we have to remain fighters as women, we must still continue to do it the woman way, but we still have to keep fighting and keep it going. Unless there's one more comment on that. I see we have Tapelo, welcome, but I'm not going to do introductions at this point. I just want any comment on what Regina said and her role models as we get ready for the next speaker. Madam Nikiwe, I'm picking, sorry to say, Madam, I'm the madam, you are the princess. Princess Nikiwe, I'm picking on you because as a South African, Jackie Kennedy Onassis, for me, resembles women such as Mama Winnie Mandela, who through their poise and beauty and their fashion style, they still managed to define and give direction to our history. What is your thought on that? Unmute yourself.
Program director, you're catching me out of guard.
I'm that type. I told them the youth, you know, us youth people, young people, we move on. But what is your thought? It could be someone else that in Africa that believe carries the same value. I mean, I think of Queen Nandi, the mother of King Shaka. For me, she also represents that a high level of beauty, a high level of class, but she actually also determined the history of the Zulu nation and of our country.
Yes, I think we really do have such women as You can also highlight some of the queens that have also played a huge role. And you, even here in South Africa, we have Queen Mujaji, you know, and we still have a monarch that has been led by a woman for such a time. And also in my kingdom, there is a queen that actually took the throne, you know. So sometimes I would think that I would think that maybe sometimes I would think, okay, you know, it's possible for women to actually lead, you know. She was not a queen because she married to a king. She did not marry. The throne, since the king was her father, and after the passing of the king, she stood up and was the one that was leading my nation, which is the Mpondomise kingdom. So what I'm trying to say is that we have the powerful women around us that inspire us, like you have mentioned, Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela. And here in South Africa, we have honored a lot of them. Charlotte Maxeke, who I was told also that she not much was spoken about her. Because a lady in Cape Town was actually promoting the book also about Charlotte Maxeke, because she's the first woman to obtain a Bachelor of Science degree during the apartheid times, you know, the first Black woman to obtain a degree. So you know, there's so much that we are not told about women, more especially because sometimes we find that even the struggle, it's all about men, it's all about those that went to Robben Island, but who was watching, who was fighting outside prison during those times, you know. So there's little that is being said, and I'm very happy when we actually come out and mention those powerful women. Thank you.
Thank you so much. She said I caught her off guard. I knew there was a whole lot in there. Yes, no, thank you. And thank you, Regina, for touching on those elements. And what it then says, the challenge for marking the International Youth Day is that the challenge for young people in the tourism sector, young people in all sectors must make sure that they must do the mining. You go and mine and you dig, because you can only get wealth and information by actually digging it and polishing it and putting it out there. So it is also our responsibility on these platforms, Madam Miriam, and everyone else, that we make it a task for them. This is what I call generational wealth, because without this wealth, they have nothing to take them forward. So we all are challenged to take this forward and make sure that we unearth all this beauty and the matriarchal societies, those parts about matriarchal reigns and rulings about Africa, and Africa and anything else that links to our history, whether it's African Americans or anywhere in the world. Does that, thank you. Does that allow the second speaker to be on standby? Michelle, will you just indicate who the second speaker is? But I can see Madam Nikiwe, Princess Nikiwe, well, have something very burning to say. Are you fine? Or was it just you breathing? Are you good? Okay. Can the next speaker please be on standby? Thank you, Regina, for that input. You see how much discussion you've inspired. If it was not for time, would continue for another couple of hours, but we'll leave that for another session. And I think maybe it does call for a session for us to identify the matriarchs in our history and cultures, and does have a session on that. I will ensure that that happens. Yeah,
definitely. Matriarch.
Okay. Yeah. Michelle, who is our next speaker? Siabonga?
You know, Joshua didn't say, I didn't see that in the chat.
No, just look at the poster. The next pretty face on the poster is the next one to speak, as long as they are on the line. We do it the African way.
I don't have that up myself. Let me see. That was too funny.
Is that you now?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Is it Sister Mulebogen who's next?
Oh, are you ready to speak, Madam Mulebogen?
I was taking out bill number 4 as it indicated on the program. Is it okay?
Hello, Juliet.
Oh,
No,
yes.
I
Oh,
can
hi,
go ahead.
Josh. Okay, let's hear what Josh has to say, but Sister Mlebogang is available to speak from the dark. Hi, Josh, you can greet now. Thank you, welcome.
Yes, so
I
the
see.
next speaker is supposed to be Mariam Allen. So she can have the platform.
All right. Sorry, Josh. I'm still in the Africa, in the Women's Month mode. Here in South Africa, it's Women's Month until the 31st of August. So that's why I was thinking, okay, why is he talking? Because here, everywhere, in the media and everything, even in churches, everything is being done by women. So Michelle, get the program, because I'd like you to continue with us in the spirit of Women's Month. Honor Women's Month. Thank you, Joshua. Ms. Marian, are you ready, or Osmo Lebogang?
Hello, greetings from the United States of America.
Greetings.
Okay, just once again, Sister Mlebogang, please mute yourself. Okay. Okay.
I'm here in Laurel, Mississippi, and I'm so grateful that I invited to the platform. Over here in Mississippi, I am a social worker. That's what my career of choice is. I'm also a minister, but one of the joys that I'm doing here in the US is I'm starting a museum. I've had what's known as a mobile museum, which started in 2019. And finally, we have a place and a location for the museum. But our topic today was role models. And one of the topics that I wanted to cover about a role model is that you must have a commitment to your community. One of my commitments to my community is to educate. As Ms. Farrell and I were talking this morning about educating the youth, we have to leave this information behind. After I'm dead and gone, people need to know about our history. So at this museum, I highlight us. I start in Egypt so that they can see that we were kings and queens and get an understanding of who we were in Africa. People do not understand that we come out of a rich history. We didn't just start at slavery. We had a life before we were enslaved. And so in this museum, I will exhibit all of these artifacts from Egypt to slavery and then to the Jim Crow era and on into our civil rights era until we became free. And so I focus on our local people, and I focus on people in the United States, people in the nation, people all over the world, because Black people have accomplished so much, but it's not visible for our children to see. Even here in the US, there's nothing in our history books. And so I had all this information in my home because I enjoyed history. So I've been collecting this for years. And as my children will jokingly say, our house is like a museum. And so I thought about that. Our house being a museum, why should my two children be the only children to see this? And so when I visited our local museum, I didn't see us. Well, I saw us, but I saw us in a limelight that I didn't want. I wanted to portray more. We have us there with, piercings in our nose and, looking like a hood person, as we say here. They have us portrayed in not all the positive limelight. So I wanted the youth as well as everybody to see African Americans and Africans in a different limelight. And that's why I'm committed to the community and getting this museum up and running by February the 1st, which is the first day of African American history. And I'm asking help from people from all over to assist with this matter by sending in whatever you would like to the museum so that it can be explained and placed on the wall, placed on the shelves, so people all over the diaspora can come to Laurel, Mississippi and see African American art.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you, Josh. You raise your hand here. No, thank you so much. No, as Josh was saying, it is exciting. And what's exciting about that is, Josh, is that we can even challenge Ms. Miriam to go beyond slavery. So we can also look at how we link you to, there's a university here in South Africa that focuses on also African history. It's run by a total Pan-Africanist professor or doctor. So it will be good to see if you can go slightly beyond that and start from where we were before before we were defined by the circumstances of slavery. Josh, I don't know if you want to say something, and also I recognize you, Regina.
Let Regina go ahead.
What I have to say is that history doesn't belong to us. I think if you paved the way and broke glass ceilings, then you belong to history. So we have to learn to preserve our history. And I learned that from when my grandfather passed away, that you have to preserve the history, that nothing of his really belongs to me. It belongs to the generation, it belongs to the world, it belongs to the nation. Because I think if you paved the way, then we should be allowed to look back in time and see what you have done and how far we have came, and that you have pushed the door through and you have pushed the envelope and you possible so we can be able to grow and thrive. So I love what you're doing. I love the fact that you're preserving the history, and that's a major component of what we don't do in the diaspora, or I'm sure they do it throughout the 54 countries of Africa, because I know building out a museum in Ghana. But I think we should do it more here in the diaspora of preserving our history.
Okay. Sister Malacham, before you continue, I'd like to also firstly recognize that work, Madam Miriam, that you are doing, and that is why I had asked you to do that brief introduction at the beginning. And let's not take it for granted that Africa is doing it. Remember that Africa has been robbed of a lot of things, of a lot of resources, minerally, intellectually, historically. So that what Africa has lost also includes some of those artifacts and historic elements that we need to preserve. So as Africa, we are actually, in some countries, it's only now that we are now saying, okay, what is missing? We are still looking for the truth of one of the kings. We know that it's sitting somewhere in one of the Xhosa kings that I think is sitting in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. Someone was saying, oh, they've given us the truth, but they're not giving us the body. So there's a lot that is that we need to preserve, but before we preserve it, we still have the mission of getting it back. So it is a task that is facing the whole of Africa geographically and also within the diaspora. And you are doing a great job, Madam Miriam, for that. Before the next speaker, I actually would like to first welcome Tapelo Morao, that's a Setswana, and you are welcome to give to say hi and then maybe give an input on what you heard, or anyone else would like to say something, because it's very critical for us to preserve our history. No, it's not just for us, it's not just to making our homes and our museums, but it's also for our next generation.
Marian champion.
I wanted someone else to comment on what you presented. Sister Mlebukang, do you want to go ahead?
Okay, can I? I'd really like to appreciate what Mama Marian is doing in the States, especially in bridging the gap that has been created by all these eras that we've undergone as African people. She's touched on a very sensitive topic and a sensitive issue for us, especially at home, with regards to repatriations and the reparations of what slavery has done to us. And in my community of the Rastafari in South Africa, especially the ones in the breakaways where we're living under traditional leadership, we have tried over the years to foster projects and programs that will assist repatriations and also the reintegration of our African family from the diaspora back home that would also bridge the divide, the cultural divide that has been created by all these systems that have broken us apart and deteriorated our roots in our cultural systems back here home in Africa. So in so saying, I would like to say, please let's engage more. Let us talk on the programs that we can develop using the bilateral agreements that have been put in place by our governments at home and in the diaspora, so that we can be able to educate each other also on the practicalities of the culture that has been lost throughout all these times, and to also create a new culture and history that our children can enjoy that will also benefit them economically in going forward with addressing certain issues that are also coming up that is preventing the repatriation to take place. Because we've housed a couple of our brethren from the diaspora, and over time we find that there's a cultural shock that we experience, and that tends to break the glue that is supposed to hold us and reroute us back to Africa. So in facilitating this Back to Africa movement, is it possible that we can now create a network and start creating the frameworks and strategies whereby our kings, as the custodians of the land, as the ones that are supposed to bring about this reconnection and cultural inclusion, be included in these sessions, whereby we can create even centers and places whereby when you're moving, you would be able to also be able to sustain yourself and not become dependent on any system within Africa. So I would really like to commend you and appreciate you even more, sharing strength and light in what it is that you are doing in order to bring this divide and this cultural gap that has been created by all these systems from the Western regimes. And for that, I'm available. We are all available. And I would also like to say our princess is here, Princess Nikki Webam, who is heading one of the biggest movements in Africa to reunite and create platforms that will facilitate that. So this platform has really brought us together under this star and sunlight that we can now start move forward in creating these feasible ways and create these bridges, permanent bridges that will bring about this development that we are looking for. Thank you for that, Mama.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I see Madam Miriam wants to comment on that. That was a quite comprehensive mouthful, and I've made notes. And the actionable programs, program partnership, it's awesome. I think that's the theme of what we are doing. Madam Miriam, I know you want to comment so that we get ready for the next speaker. And I see Josh needs to say something. Please continue, Madam Miriam.
Yes. Uh-oh, I went off the air.
No, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I just wanted to say, I look forward to connecting with others, because I can't research everything. And, you know, like I said, I'm just a social worker, and I read, I'm an avid reader, but I would appreciate that people from all over, everybody, all my sisters and brothers would help me to make this museum an event that when people walk in, they'll say, oh, I didn't know that. So I look forward to people sending things, and even the teachers, send me literature, send me things, send me books, because it's more than just looking at a painting. In this collection of body of stuff, I use statues, I use books, I use artifacts, I use whatever, a picture. Somebody may have a picture, like a lady yesterday bought me a picture of her family, what's called, looks like a slave house, but it was actually their home. And so I like all of those things to be incorporated that people can actually see and touch. I don't want you not to be able to touch it, because I want you to be able to, I got a piece of a slave bracelet, and it's actually from a slave. And so I want the people to be able to touch it. And I don't just want to be, you know, guarded and say, no, don't touch that. And so that's why I want it to be an interactive thing, as well as a library. So I have upstairs, I'll have a youth department, and I'll have, it's a whole bank of bookshelves. And so I look forward to getting books about us to place on those shelves, so that the youth as well as the adults can sit there in the museum and sit and read the books. And so that's what look forward to everyone helping, and so that we can get this history portrayed, because it's not in our history books here in Mississippi. So I have to depend on and lean on others.
Awesome. Before I see we do have people who want to contribute also and comment. Before I do allow them, I'd like you to please, because you're the one who touched on the issue of touching and feeling, I'd like you to please show us the mask that we're discussing. It's not a mask, the artifact that we were discussing earlier on, and how something as simple as that, and maybe you can just summarize our earlier discussion.
This is one of the artifacts that's in the museum. He is known as a nigger bank, a jolly nigger bank. And so children are able to touch and, see this, so that they'll know, they'll ask the question, what is that? Because this is a piece of memorabilia, how they portrayed us. This is how they made us look. And so you can place a penny in his mouth, and I pull this lever, and then you'll see his eyes will change. And so this was sort of like a form of mockery, how they mocked us. And so I want a person or adult to be able, when you walk into the museum, he's sitting there, so that there'll be an explanation of who he is and why he existed. And then you can see that we have evolved from something such as this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, because what I was saying earlier on about that is, it's not just about looking at where we've evolved. It actually forces us to tell the sad and the painful stories that our youth and children don't want to hear. Where they say, oh, things are not the same. Oh, things are different. No, things are just the same. And they will just keep emerging. The George Floyd situation tells you that things are still the same. What is happening everywhere in the world shows you that things are still happening. So your artifacts will help us to have those uncomfortable and at times painful discussion. And that is part of our healing and our way forward. I'm going to allow Thapelo, please don't put your hand down. And then, please say what you needed to say, and then we'll continue to Josh.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's Thapelo speaking.
Thapelo, is that you?
Yes, that's me. That's me.
Oh, okay. I see Josh is coming full screen. Okay. Go ahead. Please.
I think that's very powerful, what we just heard from the lady. Sorry, I didn't get the name. Miriam.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very powerful, because from my end, I've grown up, as you can see on my picture there, I'm fairly young. So I've grown up from a very artistic background. I've gone to school, studied arts, studied design art. I've even majored in multimedia and so forth. And all the things that I've studied have been depicting art from a European background. Every time they depict, or art is depicted it's very barbaric in a way, if it's depicted from a African perspective. And everything else, you go from your barocks, from your I forgot the other movements, but all these movements are seen to be very clean, very how can I say it? Very elegant, if I may say. And yes, our forms of art are meant to be portrayed more as barbaric and so forth. So I think that what you're doing right there encapsulates the authenticity of Black people and aims to reshape the imagery or the notion of us as Black people or Africans, be it in America, be it in Africa or wherever in the world. It aims to reshape the notion and just the whole message of who we are.
Yes.
So I think that's very powerful.
Thank you. What you just said is equally powerful. Thapelo, yes, so Thapelo, you can take 2 seconds and introduce yourself. You never got a chance before we engage on what you've just engaged on.
Okay, I'm Thapelo Muruakhomo. I'm from South Africa. I'm based in Gauteng, normally known as Johannesburg for people that are from abroad. Yeah, so I just saw a link on one of my WhatsApp groups and I just, because I'm a curious soul, so I just went in and I just was listening, and it was just intriguing to actually come across such information. So thanks a lot.
Great, thank you and welcome. I'm glad you bumped into a very good space, and that's a space that you are able to contribute towards. What you said is quite powerful as well, about correcting, and that's one of the things I was going to touch on, correcting how we've been portrayed. Yes, we need to correct how, because and I link it to justice, and when I see Joseph raising his hand, I'm going to go to Joshua, and you know, those names that come from the Bible can be very intimidating because there might be some lightning that follows. Let me allow them to speak. Joshua briefly, and then Joseph.
Hello, Juliet.
Again, yes. Do you have the word from the Lord? Continue, Joshua, briefly. Yes.
Yes, so I wanted to request that you grant me co-host so that I'll be able to record.
Okay, Joseph, I'm glad you have your hand raised. Can you respond? Are you able to do that? Did you get?
Okay. Okay, great. Nichelle, you are now the host. I would like you to give me the host so I can be able to manage the platform. Nichelle.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
Yes, no, we told you that we are co-opting you.
Yes, I thought it changed. Okay, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, please do help. Okay, Joseph, do you want to continue while that is being done? Do you want to continue and make the point you needed to make? Josh, you can put your hand down. Thank you. Joseph,
okay,
continue.
So I'm expecting Michelle to grant me as co-host.
Yes, no, she's sorting that out. Thank you. Joseph, do you want to say something else?
For now, nothing. I just need the control so I can be able to manage the activities on the background. Thank you.
Okay, Nisha, you give the gentleman control, and if you need to, you can take it back.
Okay, I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Them if they don't behave. Are you winning? Okay, but while you are doing that, can we have Sister Molebogen, also Molebogen, stand by to present. Feel no pressure. Feel no pressure. Everything's still under control, Nisha, as you fix that technicality.
Oh no, that was it.
Oh, is it sorted now? Osmolebogen?
Hello, Ma.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thanks again for the opportunity. It's Sister Molebogen, and I'm the co-founder of Bicolen Creations, and we also members of the Rastafari Ecotourism Center that was launched by one of our kings, who is late Ikosi Sipho Mahlangu from the Nzunza Mabusa Traditional Council. I'm actually thrown off board, but my role model, I think I have a couple of role models that I would like to share with the team. And Mama Winnie has been discussed for her contribution in the liberation struggle and for also creating a balance in political leadership. Though she was not recognized properly, we are still alive, and we would wish to let her memory and her achievements also still be celebrated around the world, especially by young women who are growing up not knowing what it was like before, the injustices and the inequalities that we had to face as women throughout all these eras. So coming into an era whereby women are now being recognized for their capabilities in leadership roles, in business, in economic generation, and in family rebuilding and cultural appreciation, I would like to share Empress Itegu Menen's achievements with what she has done in educating, liberating, and also making sure that the young women and girls in Africa and around the world are developed and also given a place in society to equally contribute in the development of their culture, in the preservation of their abilities, and in also creating economies while still being mothers and fulfilling your role in society. Empress Menen has been selfless in her life. Firstly, her childhood was not as easy as some of us are having right now. Given her background, she was married off at a very early age before she was even a teenager. And she was involved in a couple of marriages that did not materialize well. But in the long run, she became the empress for Ethiopia, besides Emperor Haile Selassie, who is revered for his contribution to the liberation of Africa, and to also his contribution in creating bridges and facilitating land to be available for the development of Africans who are returning home from the diaspora. So Empress Menen was a woman who loved education. In her era, young women were not allowed to get an education. You had to be domesticated in order to preserve culture and to keep womanly. But she fought and she contributed with her own monies to develop schools for young girls to be educated. And she developed craft schools and craft centers whereby the preservation of Ethiopian artifacts, they've got colorful baskets, their dyeing methods, their African tanning, and the pottery. She developed those art centers and education facilities in order to preserve, but also to create economic generating streams for young girls in rural areas to be able to create finance and to also participate in the Ethiopian economy. So for her contribution in preserving our culture and developing it to be culturally and globally competitive, I would really like to thank her for her time and her effort and her selflessness, because her development in the craft sector, in the cultural sector, involving women in politics and in leadership positions, as the woman and the queen for Emperor Haile Selassie. So this has been done in unison as a family, which is one of the units that the Western culture is still trying to break even now, that we Africans don't have stable families that have been developed. So for that, I would like to share her, if I may say, her queenhood that she has shown for us, her contribution towards the moral stature of a woman in leadership position, her royal attire that she has also brought to influence the Western way of dressing in royal leadership. So their contribution has been so immense that it is underrated and we're not that educated about it. We would also like to share the spiritual commitment that she brought to the liberation of Africa through spirituality and through connectedness. She created platforms whereby women across the world during the time of war, especially during the invasion of Ethiopia, she encouraged a lot of women to not look at war, but for us to come and unite and stand together against the pain that war is causing us and the deterioration that it is bringing to our cultural society and moral fiber. Sitting here as a young Rasta woman, serving as a linkage that our youth do not forget our royalty, because without our royalty's involvement and action and protection against all of these other elements that are coming to destroy our culture and to eliminate our monarchs, their contribution and the way that they paved for us has actually ushered a new era whereby we are able to advance culturally and become involved in this industrial revolution that is coming. Because if we look at Ethiopia's development, especially economically, during that time, their contribution was so pivotal that they gave up one of their palaces to establish a university so that Ethiopian children can have higher education. So their selflessness was in such a manner that their own life, being royal, was also public and serving the public as best as they can, and ushering Africa into this new modern dispensation that we are living in. Because we once were a dark continent that was considered to be uncivilized, that the West thought they had to come and civilize us, but yet we had all this education and we had an economy and we had a moral fiber that we were living according to, because nobody was hungry in Africa before colonization and the white men saw our honey. That is what I'd like to say about the Empress. But the second woman I would like to revere is Wangari Maathai, for her effort and for her contribution to bring us into light, to come back and love our environment. Most of what we create out of art and how we celebrate our culture depends on our environment. And with this Western ways of bringing in modernization, you know, they're building cities, they're discovering this and that, destroying our natural environment. In the near future, it might create a problem for us to celebrate and fulfill some of our cultural rights, our cultural practices that depend on nature. Your initiation depends on nature. Crafting all these statues and artifacts depends on nature. Protection from certain elements and spirits needs different types of herbs and plants to be within the ecosystem. And for nature to be balanced, you need all creation to be one in interaction with each other. So in this effect, her showing us that we really need to go back and build green areas, the environment where we can be able to still preserve practice and know and connect, because our connection depends on nature. Without nature, we cannot tell when the rain is coming. Without nature, we cannot see movement, we cannot tell seasons, and we cannot even predict our future. So these connections that they give to us, both socially, educationally, and environmentally, are what inspire us to keep on preserving and fighting for the little land that we have, so that we can see value in the land that is allowing us to also live. Our experience with COVID showed us that everybody needs a little bit of green space in order to have fresh oxygen, so that your lungs and your mind can be able to give you the type of progress and intellect that you need. So preserving our environments for us, even as the Rastafari community, is the most important role that we can play in our African development, preservation, and history, because that allows us to not only advance, but it also gives us an opportunity to explore, be innovative, and to also create new ways of interactions between us, nature, and our spirituality. In so saying, I would like to pose a question: what kind of leaders do we want to shape for our children, who are different in education, who are different in era, who are different in technological advancement from what we are and from what our parents used to be? Because we are moving into an era where everything is becoming electronic and industrialized, and it is leaving small space for arts and culture to progress and to develop. What kind of leaders are we going to look at or try to create that would usher us, the cultural society within the indigenous spaces, to move into the fourth industrial revolution, that would not need us to change our lifestyle from cultural people, that would need us to preserve our image and our environments? So what kind of leaders do we want to raise tomorrow? And the type of environment that we would like to create and preserve for our children and the natural habitation that we have. That is a little bit of my presentation. But in so saying, I would also like to encourage Africa to look at removing all the waste first, before we carry on digging up any new minerals or advancing industriously, or even looking at making cash cows of what is the little that is left from what has been taken away. Because our environments are deteriorating, our rural areas are now becoming dumping sites, and we are no longer having the right ecosystem to foster collective growth. I'd like to nip it in the bud and say thank you again for every woman and every man out there who is advancing Africa's cultural rights and progress to its maximum. I'm almost out of battery and my load shedding is not back, but I'm gonna try switch to my phone if I jump off, if I'm cut off by my connection, I'll try switch on back with my phone. But these are the two women, Empress Menen and Wangari Maathai, who have given us a backbone and strength to advance culturally, spiritually, and to also protect, preserve, and grow our rural economies through environmental preservation. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much.
I can't hear me, Juliet.
Hello, Juliet, are you there?
Can't hear you, Mama Julie.
It seems her connection is poor. Juliet, we can hear you. Unmute yourself.
May Juliet, please unmute yourself.
Does anyone have a question for Sister Mobere? Please, Nichelle, grant me co-host access my both accounts.
I'm not the host. HL Vandermeer is the host. So I asked, can you please assist with making Joseph
It's showing me. Okay.
On both of his screens.
What's the problem that we are facing?
Yes, Vandermeer, please can you grant me co-host my both accounts, Joshua Ibewike?
Okay, let me see if I can achieve that.
And after that, this is Joseph Akinola. Can you make me the host so I can manage things on the background?
I'm going to try my best.
Who's the next speaker?
Twai is supposed to be the next speaker. But if he's not here, then I'll have to go ahead.
What happened to Juliet?
Her audio is not coming in. I think
I
she's muted or network.
Okay, there we are admitting somebody. But I think the next speaker, please go ahead while we in the background sort out the hiccups. Okay, next speaker, please go ahead.
I'm also waiting for the co-host access because I would like to record.
There you are now, co-host.
Can you pass the host to me?
I'm going to do that now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
The second Joshua needs to be co-host. Thank you. Okay, yes, Swaib is here. Swaib, can you kindly introduce yourself and make your presentation?
Well, hi everyone.
Hi, Swaib.
It's an evening this tide. I don't know what's the time that we saw. Following my time difference, I may say good evening. That's depending on where I am now. And I hope we are all doing good and fine and everything is good. My thanks can just go to all of those who have been able of joining this youth summit that we prepared. Thanks to Joshua, Sister who have been able of coming in for today. It's been really a long time. However, we've been in for struggles, also training stuff. And as young to students, to employees, and we're all doing fine and well. I hope everything is going good. Well, I'm trying Sinyafuza, staying from Uganda, it's in East Africa. Right now, I'm based in Kampala. That's the capital city. My background, I'm still a student somehow, at the same time employed somewhere. But all it's around the tourism sector because I love it and I've loved it ever since. Just a simple hit of what brought me to this industry. It's because of my family background, my travel all over the world, going to South Africa, Europe. So he's always unstable, always actually with that since he was traveling. Then there, my love for the sector could develop and I could progress and add on more. Hope you're hearing me very right. Sure.
So I think your network is poor. I'm not really catching up on what you're saying. Can anyone hear him?
No, we can't hear him. I suggest that he send his presentation through so that we can somehow assist him delivering his address. Thank you.
So it's fine for all.
Right, I think that your bandwidth is not sufficient. We can't hear you.
Good. Sorry, Hendrik. Thank you. I could hear you, and apologies. I don't know if yes, my sound just I had to restart my computer, but I'm back now, and I thought Joshua was able to present. Apologies for that.
Yes, Juliet, I've not presented yet. Swaib is about to present. After Swaib, then I'll present.
If it's fine, can you, before you do, I'd like to please honor the presentation. And firstly, please accept my apology. Technology is something else. I'd like to honor, I wonder if she's still on the call, our sister who presented. Osmo Leboheng, is she still on the call?
Yes, I'm still on. I'm on my phone now.
Oh, thank God. Yes, okay, I'm glad you were able to move. Yes, no. While Joshua is preparing to present, I'd like to honor and recognize the two role models that you presented. And I'm also glad that you got a chance earlier on to talk on some of the issues that you feel strongly about. So which actually makes sense. not just for you as a Rastafari woman or sister in terms of religion, but for you as an Africanist. You know, the point you mentioned about Empress, the Empress from Ethiopia, you know, when you were emphasizing that her art was linked to, you know, you were talking about the role that she played in the art, her matriarchy. You also spoke about the choices that she made in terms of moving from one marriage to another. And those are things at times in society we need to realize that and recognize also as something that is positive for women to be able to make the choices and make the decisions, to be in a space for them to be able to fulfill their call. Because I believe without making those choices, she could have possibly not been able to change the art and also, or the economy of her people. So when you were highlighting that, I was looking at it from a positive perspective, that at times as a people, you have to move. You know, you have to move in order to fulfill your calling. And I'm glad you actually touched on that so much. And what you said also about the green belt, about the importance of looking at nature, not only from what we need, but also to preserve who we are. I mean, as Africa. Earlier on, you spoke about the myth that people might have about Africa and false expectations. We can still go back to that myth of Africa, the myth of where everything, the myth of Eden. You know, I'm calling it a myth because I need to contextualize what I'm saying. But we do need to go back and strive in our own small corners, in a pot, in a yard, to bring back nature and build the green belt. I live in a space that is called the green belt here in Johannesburg. But what is said that I originally come from what is now, I don't want to call it a gold belt because it's more of a dump belt where kilometers, we know what happened in Krugersdorp recently, kilometers and kilometers, hundreds of kilometers of space that is a symbol of how the earth was mined. And now society is suffering. We have minerals that have been extracted. We have crime that is happening in those spaces. So as we destroy nature and we take away the green belt, we're actually opening up to for a very vile and uncontrollable situation, because without nature, people then go back to being victims of the system that actually has taken away from them, or that is taking away from us. So those are the things that I picked up from you. There's a whole lot more, but I feel, Guti, if there's anyone who wants to talk on that, and if you can also maybe elaborate a little bit on the points that I'm making as Joseph gets ready. And thank you again. Thank you so much. Please do apologize my sound for picking up. Joshua, let me allow OC to comment before we come to
allowed to comment, but I need to be made co-host on my second account.
Can certain things be, you can always send me a text, that's fine. Please, it's things like that, administrative things, please let's try and communicate them through the chat. Yes, can we work on that for now? Please comment while we sort out Joshua. Okay, please comment, Usi.
Thank you, Mama. I think what we really need to start looking at is to return to our roots. You know, it's time that we start investing in clean environments. Cleaning our environments gives us the opportunity to restore the balance in nature. And as we create a balance in nature, we make way for the restoration of what we lost. In our experience, especially when it comes to the economy that is being, I think we're being forced to live within the margins of consumerism. And that has opened a gap for food insecurity and surety, because now we are having less seed in our hands. We don't have the right seed that matches our DNA, and we are not having the right atmosphere that gives us crisp, clear oxygen. So we need to look back on our culture and the circularity that existed before industrialization, because we are not a wasteful nation, we are not a wasteful people. And this I get from observing how the women and the grandmothers and the fathers live in rural areas from the land, and everything goes back to the land. So the introduction of cannabis as a cultural plant that not only heals illnesses, but also restores the balance in nature is another aspect that we need to look at, especially in creating cultural and land restoration, because cannabis is still the one plant that we still have, regardless of what international laws have put. And it's the one plant that we are sure is able to restore the environment. It is able to mitigate a lot of damage that is caused by erosion. It is also able to clean the environment and the atmosphere. And one thing we've also observed in living with nature is how the animals respond to cannabis, especially the birds and the bees, and how they react around cannabis, and the type of food that is produced when cannabis is in the environment through cross-pollination and all of these natural elements that happen. So for us as Africa to start creating an economic base that would be able to create funds that will allow us to explore the innovation that is within our reach, especially investing in our children's future, investing in platforms that would allow them to experiment. We should give them room to try, test, fail, retry, and perfect, because although we don't have capital, but we have an abundance of land in rural areas under traditional leadership that can be utilized to create projects that can generate capital to fund some of the innovations that we need, especially when it comes to further education. The lack of further education institutions in our midst is another stumbling block that is preventing us from entering into the fourth industrial revolution, prepared for what is coming, prepared for the systems that are going to govern us, because new systems are going to be in place, and most systems are going to be unfavorable to our traditional ways of doing things and our cultural ways of living. And we need to now start engaging and creating platforms whereby our education systems will be able to dictate the output that we need, using what we have, which is seed for food, seed for oil, biofuel, and exploring what is it that made life so long? How do we increase our lifespan? Because our elders used to live longer. And the longer you live, the more wisdom and knowledge you have, which means from the age of 80, it's when you are able to now be fully active, because you've experienced and explored so much. When you're 80, you now have the time and the passion to start doing what you really know. So how do we increase our lifespan? Using our culture, using our education, and these technologies that are coming into space. Because increasing our lifespan would assist us in bridging the generation divide that is also existing in our midst. But we need to also look at the women. How do women survive in these situations? How do women preserve in these situations their cultural practices, and how do we transfer them to our children without them being so fragmented? And I think that is also a note for the academic sector to come in and assist us in developing these education systems that will allow us to harness our ingenuity as mothers, as a nation, and also as the future bearers of what we are supposed to be creating. I'm sorry, Mama, but my connection seems to be on and off on my side. Can you still hear me?
Yes. No, that's the reason I asked you to quickly comment, just in case the power on your battery fails you, so that you are covered on what you needed to say on your input. Now we can still hear you. We were able to hear and pick up on all the critical things that you were saying. Were you done before I take input for comments? Because I know that our gentleman from Krugersdorp needed to say something. And Joshua, and I need to know whether you are fine. Also, you can conclude on your input while you are still here.
Yes, Juliet, I'm ready to present when it's time.
Joshua, are we waiting for Sister Moleboheng to conclude just in case she gets cut off. Then you are next, and then I'll be presenting next. Moleboheng, please continue.
In conclusion, what I'd like to say is, in this era that we're going into, let's give kind consideration and create platforms where women would be able to engage, be more on strategic planning, involve us in creating platforms that would enable us to make decisions, follow up on those decisions, and give us the capital and the room to be able to manage those systems and implement them in a way that we know they will be self-sustaining. Because what we are lacking now is the financing to advance women into leadership positions that are progressive for Africa's advancement and for us to bridge the gap with the diaspora. Because we also need to bridge the gap with the diaspora. The diaspora has got an abundance of resources, especially when it comes to education. And we have got the know-how on how to maneuver culturally and locally on the ground. So if we can start developing systems as mothers, as women, in assistance with our nation, to now start bridging the gap between us and the diaspora, so that we can create these economies that are lasting and self-reliant for us to be able to advance as a continent out of dependency. Yes. In conclusion, what I'd like to say is, let us liberate as much as we can, because we are still in the forefront and the world is still looking at us for solutions to today's problems and tomorrow's future. Thank you, Mama.
Thank you so much, OC. Thank you so much, because I like your final sentence when you're saying the world is still looking at us. With all the world wars and the problems that we are facing, Africa still has to be, or what we still have to be, the softer side. We have to be the healing balm for the world. You know, the world has to look at us for healing, the same way that it came to us for healing when the colon. I want to say Boyan van Riebeck came over, the people came to colonize. They came initially to look for resources for healing. We can still now take control and be the ones who provide that healing. Thank you for that input. And I believe that there are a lot of points you touched on. And I want to say that we need to continue discussing, because there are resources that are available. It's just a matter of saying, how do we network and make sure that platforms like these, we consolidate and make sure that the resources that are available, they become amortized, whether from the diaspora or from one country to another or from one province to another. Thank you for that input. And for those people who are still on the line, when you are able to, please do put in your details, your name, just briefly your name, maybe your organization, and your email address, because I think it's important that we have follow-up action based on the discussions that we've had. It mustn't just be a seminar that where we talk and we don't look at ways to dynamically make things happen. I hope that that's in order, but I know that my brother from Krugersdorp, Tapelo, you had a comment to say. Just briefly put it before we move to the next speaker. I don't want to do injustice to any speaker. You did have a comment about, please, Tapelo.
Thanks again for the opportunity. I think you had already covered most of it in terms of the illegal mining and so forth that has been happening within Krugersdorp. And yeah, I think you've covered most of it. I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Okay. There's no anyone's time that's being wasted. Your input is highly valuable, because what you were touching on is the social impact that the milking and the destruction of nature has on society, how that, because you come from that area, how that comes back and bites us. So what we take away from nature comes back and kills us, and that's exactly what is happening. And it's all in the system. And Moleboheng, those are issues that we need to talk about, and even on a global point, at global level, and engage on them. Thank you, Tapelo. Do you still have the other co-moderator? I'm not able to see, but I know Joshua is ready to present after that. Before, oh yes, hi Michelle, are you still good there?
Yes.
Yes, yes, we have to get off of here.
Michelle, okay. Let's allow Joshua to present. And then just make me aware, other than myself, which other speaker has not spoken?
Okay, so Twaib.
No, 1 second, Joshua, please. Just 1 second. Which other speaker has not spoken?
Twaib.
Other than myself? Pardon?
Twaib is to go before me. He was having network issues.
Okay, no, that's good. All right, no, I'm saying that's good as in we are aware, hopefully he'll reconnect. But before you go, I just want to recognize and thank you. Okay, he is here, but Joshua, you can continue. And thank you, Hendrik. I have to recognize, thank you for filling in when I had a connectivity problem earlier on. Please continue, Joshua. Welcome, Joshua. Please introduce and continue.
Okay, so like I was saying, Twaib is going to present before me. That is the time order, and he's about to leave. He has some other engagements.
Okay, now let's do that. Please go ahead, Twaili. Welcome, my brother.
Hello, how are you?
Yes, good evening. Welcome. Please do introduce yourself and do the honors, and then continue with your presentation. Welcome, my brother.
You can, right? Like you can hear me right now?
Yes, we're able to hear you. Please keep going.
Oh, that's cool. So I'm sorry for the misinterruptions that I've joined in late a bit. It's because of some other businesses, because we need to run up with life. But it's a good chance and a good hope that I've at least joined the big company. I was still saying that I'm Twaib and starting out from Uganda. Right now I'm based in Kampala, that's the capital city. Still going on with my educations in tourism and hospitality sector, but more probably I'm in a travel industry. Yeah, all along I've been loving this industry. That is since my childhood. We have a unit beside in Uganda, that's at the upper high school. We call it geography. I used to love it much. And I thought it could be the go-through for me. Could give in everything that is needed, be it positive or things that could just come in and at least achieve that simple thing that has groomed me. Right now, I'm pursuing my bachelor's in tourism and achieving my.
Sorry, Mr. Twaib. Sorry about this. Oh, sorry. Osmole, please mute yourself because the child is also trying to present there. Please mute yourself. Thank you. Continue, Twaib.
All right, I was saying then on the other side, I'm also pursuing bachelor's in a travel sector about world travel and air ticketing.
Are we losing Twaib?
That's okay. Let's give him a second.
Twaib, unmute yourself.
You can hear me now.
Yes, please continue.
Yeah, I was saying I have a few points to put across, and one point is the determination for all what we have. My love for the sector, since I've been loving it and I at least have a thought in mind that I will be a great achiever in the industry, I've been able of joining in for other conversions, other partnerships, be it costly or free. It can, at any time it comes in, I at least fight more that I can join in to see that educative thing, because every time, be it you're grown or still young, you still have to learn. It's out of learning that you perfect, and that's what I want. So our determination for the industry, a point has been more about conservation, And as a tourism sector, it's been really, I think some few years before it was not considered. However, in the earlier times, it was considered. So it went on destruction, that is within the few past years, and now it is re-achieving or regrooming, and of which on regrooming now, we have to improve, promote and develop what was destroyed before that we preserve for the future and the present. So conservation and sustainable development in our country, Uganda, this side is more considered to the extent that even cities and counties that have done some developments in our conservation, more so to the environment, paid some tips. They are paid some commissions for good activity. And that the accounted, like the ministry, it's the most paid one for the services it can. So have a point that is the travel sector, because tourism is a broad sector, as for us, of the hospitality sector, where we have in the accommodation, that is with the hotels and other foods and some others. Then we have in the industry sector. For tourism,
breaking.
And
keep going.
You can hear me?
Continue. Keep going.
Yeah. So I was saying about the travel sector. If we improve travel sector, we make it reachable by everyone. Be it that someone in a big city, that someone in an underdeveloped, general meaning that in I can call it a way that every status or level of persons can at least access the sector. More of the transport sector, we make it easier for everyone to, it can be done online, like developing our websites, and someone can easily access our markets in the countries and all over the world. And at the same time, locally it can be done by advertising to the people. And all that can only be done in partnerships. We cannot develop something at a good pace without partnership with others. So we need to get collaborative as Africans, because it's high time now we improve to that level that even other countries like the Europes and Asians can do. Because for us as Africans, we're still considered at a low level, and that how can we move out of that level that's under, that is still below. We can only do this by coming in a partnership, where in a conjoint manner, that if someone like, let's see Joshua in Ghana, has some good knowledge about tourism as a sector. I am also in Uganda, I also know something. Our sister is also in South Africa, Dominic and Zimbabwe, all those ones. If we could join up, like how an African Youth in Tourism Network was developed, that we are running right now, that we're enjoying. However, it's still at a low level or at a growing stage, but at least we hope that we can achieve this. So if we come together, we can all put this at a good level and at a good manner that can also benefit the country. We come out to that development. We have to make it develop, however much in other sectors, but how can we just have to think, how can we go beyond that level that is expected? How can we produce the things that others have not been, have been ignorant? So if we put up determination and partnership, those 2 points, we can come across the very best. So I encourage ourselves and some others who are not been able of accessing this meeting, this sermon that we come up with. If someone has an idea, then we come in and support that idea. You cannot contribute in only a money or financial status, but you can also contribute wisely. Give up your minds, give out your minds to that someone. I hope if you give something to that person who has some knowledge or some thinking of opening something, again, it will add on a certain brick to that kind of development. So conservation, determination, and partnerships, we can do better.
Okay.
Loving what we do, more so in tourism sector, we just have to love, because it's an industry where not everyone understands, but how can we bring closer those people who are ignorant, who don't have thoughts? Because it's some people take it as just an industry of spending without achieving. But how can we let those people achieve that kind of beat site, that kind of financial development and others? So let's love what we do. In loving what we do, we shall all reach the goals and determinations that we have all over. So my 3 points or 4, that is the determination, setting up a goal of how we can do best, the love for everything, and then innovation that is coming out with new ideas. If someone comes up with an idea, I've already said that it needs us to contribute, and then we'll make Africa a better region and a grown sector or a grown continent all over. I think that's all I have for tonight. Thank you for letting me in, Joshua. I know it's been somehow it's a hard time because we are regrooming from the other past COVID things. Now it's still affecting us, but at least we shall have to do the best, and let's just keep on that kind of determination I've talked on. We do the best. Thank you, everyone. I wish you a good and best all over what we're handing to. Thank you and have a nice time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Twaib. Thank you for that input, and also for bringing us back to the theme of tourism. And we really appreciate that. And I'm actually glad that you were blessed enough or fortunate enough to recognize your passion for geography and the land and tourism, and you built on that. And I always say it's never too late. And we just hope that in Africa we'll start, and anywhere else, we'll start channeling children to pursue careers in spaces that they're passionate about, rather than, as someone was saying, as Hendrik was saying in our meeting yesterday, rather than putting them through as if you are creating sausages. So you just an example of how you identified your passion and you built on that. And hopefully we can have more people playing in this space and other spaces, particularly children. It's all about them. And you also touched on the issue of restoration and preservation. I believe that as we restore what is lost, and we have to preserve it, but more than anything else, we have to make sure that we protect it, so that we don't find ourselves doing exactly what I noticed your hand, doing exactly what the current system has done. So restoration, preservation, and protection must be our attitude going forward. And you touched on the issue of access, and I do believe that we need to make access accessible, because things might be accessible, but they might not be accessible for people who don't have the funds, who don't have the resources. And we need to find ways of making that accessible through what we were talking about, through collaboration and partnership. And as you said, the contribution is broader than just financial. Any form of contribution, your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience, that's what will take us forward. So we'll use that approach as we start collaborating going forward. I see, Twaib, you have your hand up again. And if it's fine, before you comment, Josh, I feel if I may, can I present immediately after this, just to change the momentum? You can close in any case. You are the president, so you can present last. Please allow me. just to build on the momentum.
That's great. You can present.
Is that okay? All right, please allow me to. Okay, Tribe, I see your hand is up. Please continue.
Now, one thing I had forgotten is that can we at least as young Africans create up that travel agent that in every country, let's say it's in Uganda and then the other one is in South Africa, the other one, that African app that everyone can access at least to travel through the whole of Africa and letting it?
Sorry, you were breaking. I think that was a question, but I didn't hear it so well. Please try and say it again.
I was saying, yeah, I was saying that can we come up with that travel agent app, be it an app or kind of website that everyone can at least access Africa as a continent? That is every attraction, every development in Africa. In case someone needs to travel, come out
to can you hear me?
That app.
So
he is breaking a bit. Can I suggest, Taib, that recommendation, please put it in the chat because it's very specific. It's about creating an app that will ensure the partnership and collaboration that it does happen. Can you maybe, if I've missed it, can you put it in the chat? Because I do agree with you, but I think we need to explore it as African Youth in Tourism and see how and where and all the logistics that go with doing that app. That would be great. And also we can also link with other people who are doing the similar work so that we don't always have to reinvent the wheel, but those who are doing it in Africa, let's collaborate with them and build from that without having to reinvent the wheel. Just that's what I heard, unless you had something else. Sorry, I was getting ready to share. Yes.
Yes, we're working on developing a website. So we'll be doing that soon, and the suggestion is highly welcome.
Okay. All right. Yes, no, let's look at that, and it's a good idea. Before I move on, please can I take any other comments for Mr. Taib? Any comments? Please go ahead because I'm not seeing the, yeah. Mr. Taib, please put your hand. I almost said please comment, but you can't comment on your comments. Anyone else who would like to comment before I present?
Juliet, yes.
Yes.
I think what Mr. Taib was saying, I would like to translate it into the following. You know, we've got a history that we must honor in Africa, but we must look at our history with future lenses, with the innovation and finding our place in this new world. And I think that is a very catalytic thing that he's suggesting. And we need to capture that very carefully.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. No, what I love about you is that you've actually captured well, and you've managed to capture it in one sentence. So I will also rely on that note, so that becomes part of our work going forward. As we said, thank you. The catalytic approach, and it's all about practical and realistic ways of finding solutions to various problems and challenges. Thank you, Hendrik, for that. If there are no other comments, may I now continue, and Josh, you will close. And Michelle, may I continue?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna. Okay, it is still opening. It's buffering. Okay. Here we go. Sorry, I'm one of those people, I believe in pictures, but I'm going to go through this. When I was given an opportunity to present, I realized that I need to bring it closer to home, and home for me is in these areas of youth in the areas of sport, but you'll see where I'm going. As I said, my name is Juliet Miabo. I'm based in Johannesburg. I was born and bred in South Africa, Johannesburg. I've lived different parts of South Africa, and I work with communities. Particularly, I work with marginalized members of communities, mainly youth, women, children, the elderly, and we are also bringing closer to find working relationship with men in society, because without their participation, they become more marginalized, and that doesn't help what we do. I do all this and other things. I'm also part of the African Youth in Tourism. I do all this work under the Soweto CSI Council, which aims to get organizations locally, globally, nationally, to contribute towards the improvement of lives of people. I'm the coach, and I am a founder of Gemma Skaters. I'm in roller sport, so I teach and coach children in the area of hockey, ice skating, those sports that are predominantly not found in Black communities. I'm one of those people who believe, like Regina had said earlier on, in breaking of ceilings. So I believe in development and also making sure, but we do also other sports. So that's in a nutshell. So not only am I an executive, I'm also a coach, and I work very closely with children and youth. Okay. I'm just going to go through this. What I just want to highlight is that I believe that development has to be very broad, so I have to move around, has to be broad. And as we talk about tourism, I know that the theme was role models, and for me, that I know better role models than children and youth. So I'm going to that's why I said I'm going to bring it closer to home. As much as I recognize all the other historic and model role models, I want to bring it closer to children and youth, because I believe we are where we are because of the role that young people have played in our lives and in our democracy. Personally, I'm in those areas. I believe in sports. I believe in working with children from as early as age possible. The principle is for you to be able to have a young person that can make possible what we want to do. You need to start capturing them at an early age, identify their passion, nurture their talent, and also help them to break ceilings, for them to start playing in areas and arenas that they are not expected to. And as Black people and as Africans, someone say, oh yeah, we don't swim, but no, we do swim. We might just swim in the dam, but what we then do is, as part of breaking the ceilings, we have to take the power and the strength of children and youth and make sure that we give them access to those things that will take their natural talents to the next level. Okay, I'm pressing next page. Okay. Here, we all know Tata Mandela, who said, sport has the power to change the world, and it has the power to inspire, and it has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. What I do is I coin this statement. I say, youth have the power to change the world. Youth have the power to inspire, and youth has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. So, and for our purpose, it's important that we recognize the power of young people. And even when you're talking about sports, it's very unlikely that you have a sport where we're saying that we start taking people from the ages of 50 or 60. The younger people get involved in sport, the more they're able to actually do what Nelson Mandela was saying about sport. But for me, this statement clearly translates back to the power of youth. Okay. Quoting Dr. Martin Luther King, he says, peace is not simply the absence of conflict, but the existence of justice for all people. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the existence of justice for all people. Unfortunately, currently we are living in a time where there are a lot of conflicts, but one of the conflicts that we tend to ignore is internal conflicts. And the internal conflicts that we have and we don't deal with are those that hold us back. So no matter how much we talk, no matter how many opportunities that that might be out there, how much collaborations that we may have, if we don't deal with the internal conflict that we have of identity, we won't be able to get very far as a people. We'll always be at the tail and will never be at the head. I always, my 8-year-old always says, "Mommy, you always talk about Hitler," and he's only 8 years old. And as one of the things I'm teaching and I'm learning from the most evil, and I don't think he was the only one, man that ever lived in our history, is that how people can take something as simple and as innocent as sport and try and use it just to firstly to position themselves. If you look at this, you might be looking at Hitler, but if you look at it with a different eye, you are actually looking at one of the most successful promotion of a country. And this is called propaganda. He used propaganda to promote Germany. He used propaganda to hide all the evil that he was doing. He called the world to Germany to showcase his might. So he used the system that he had full control over to try and show his dominance. I mean, what was interesting that he was doing that with something as natural as sport, because we know sport is natural. I mean, in Africa, we do spear throwing, rocks, we do all sorts of one-on-one games. I mean, if you think of all the games that are involved in sport, a lot of them, they originate from Africa, and you cannot dispute that, because we are looking at the fact that Africa, that is the mother and where the first human being was found. And therefore everything else evolved from there. So sport can also play a role, but also if you think of that, it's also important in tourism and positioning ourselves. Moving from Hitler, the reason I'm highlighting Hitler is because he used propaganda to tell a story, to try and paint a beautiful picture of one of the most horrible time in our history. But we've had a lot of horrible times. But the point I'm trying to make here is, if we don't tell our own stories, if as young people don't take it upon ourselves and make ourselves as role models to tell our own stories, to dig into history, and be able to say, this is exactly what happened. Because if you look at a picture like this, you can see that the perspective there that is being given is that you had a lot of Zulu men who, between the war between the British and the Zulus, that we had a lot of Zulu men, plus minus, looking at it there, you are looking at possibly about 10 that have been killed. And what you are seeing is it's only 2 British soldiers on the ground. And you ask yourself, if you look at history, that is actually not the way it is. And so we can use art. Art has been used as propaganda, and we need to start correcting some of these things. And remember that our children are going to look at these and believe this to be the truth. So when we look at what the role of young people, your creativity, your ability to paint the stories that correct the history, that the negative and the false history that has been said about us. I mean, whether it doesn't matter where in the world, but let's continue and also start promoting who we are. So as a people, our tourism must go beyond just promoting the art and promoting the artifacts and other things, but it also must clear the propaganda. As you can see that the European system, this is the Colosseum, they continued. So we should be able to take what is historic and forge it into the future, forge it into the present, but in a positive way. The same way that they were able to take cultural games, sport, and then they forged the same systems in terms of the sitting area, in terms of even the way our stadiums are built. If you think about it, if you look in the African context, we don't have, normally the sports and everything is done in open space, it's interactive, there's music, but the Western system built itself to position itself using culture, but also taking it into the future. So we must actually look at that and say, as we go into these spaces, let's forge who we are and identity as much as possible. I'm going to go quickly. Yes, I'm going to, this was also part of Germany, but the one I'm linking to that is through sport, you should be able to level the playing fields, because not just sports, but even through tourism, because remember, sports plays a very critical role in tourism. And that is how people get to travel, whether it's world sport, whether it's the Commonwealth Games. And as people get exposed to what is happening in our African countries or in our spaces, even if it's within the diaspora, we need to be able to use those opportunities to level the playing fields. And so someone might have had a head start, but it doesn't mean that they will win. If you take the case of Jesse Owen, you know, this was in the German, in that racist space, that as a Black person, he didn't have the head start, but still he was able to show that humanity and also determination can actually win the day. So though the Olympics were all of those Olympics in 1939 were all about Germany, but they ended up being about Jesse Owen. So in telling our truth, in exposing who we are, we can turn things and change the narrative about who we are as a people. Okay, I'm going to run through this. Sorry, did I just go back? In point in case, as in what someone might see, even the current situation might see as a dire era in our history, how we tell it, and it needs to be told from our perspective, because if you don't write it, if you don't put it down, it will always be told from someone else's perspective. So we need to continue to capture. So when we are looking at tourism and we tell people about our cities, our countries, our continent, we need to make sure that it is our story, even if it is a sad and difficult story, whether it's about slavery, whether it's about apartheid, whether it's about the unrest that are happening currently, whatever it is, we need to have control of the narration. In that way, we don't have a situation where our children get to be very confused about what exactly happened and they are not able to learn from it. So we need to carry and capture our own stories, because you'll see earlier, oh, sorry, Mr. Owen keeps coming back. Let me just, I'm going to give a few examples. For instance, as South Africa, we had the West supporting us against and helping us to fight against apartheid. But the point that I'm saying is with this slide is that as much as we know what happened historically, or we should know, some of it, because we didn't have control of the media, came from a perspective of Europe. The BBC reported a lot of cases. So what we were finding out about South Africa, even as South Africans, was told from a British perspective. In that way, that you will find more stories about the role that the British played in fighting apartheid than you would about the stories of the actual people in South Africa, the role that they played to fight against apartheid, or even other African countries, the role that Kenya, Uganda, and even other, remember, it's all propaganda. And I am also highlighting the fact that as much as we know about September 11th, we know what happened. And when I say September 11th, something comes to mind, but we also need to start telling stories about what happened in 1958, when the women took the stand to fight against the pass laws as part of the fighting against apartheid in August. So, but no one will tell the stories. No one will portray that and tell those stories unless we take it upon ourselves to tell those stories. And I call this an era of self-definition for inner peace. I did allude to that when I was presenting earlier on. Steve Biko, one of our the people who founded the Black Consciousness Movement, he said, I'm going to be me as I am, and you can beat me or jail me or even kill me, but I'm not going to be what you want me to be. So that means that even under the most difficult economic, social, geographic food insecurity circumstances, we need to make sure that we need to be able to, sorry, Joshua, I'm presenting, please don't call. Yes, we need to be able to continue to find ways to self-define ourselves. And if we don't do that, that means we are not showing that you can be tenacious. So we need tenacity in order to continue to say we are going to self-define and self-describe, no matter under what circumstances. And it's not for us, we are able to quote him now, but it's also for the next generations. When he made this quotation, I must have been like 6 years old, but that still also informs my philosophy and the things that I would pass on to my kids. Can someone please assist Joshua? I think he's trying to come in. Okay. Max Roach says, my point is that we must decolonize our minds. We must rename and redefine ourselves. We must decolonize, rename and redefine ourselves in all respects, culturally, politically, socially, and we must redefine ourselves, our lives in our own terms. So if we can just remember that who we are in the space of tourism, who we are as young people, we must still make sure that we do it in our own terms in order for us, even as we are trying to get the means we industrialize, fourth industrial revolution, we're getting into technology, it must be in our own terms. What we do with TikTok, let's find alternatives. What is there, if there's Facebook, let's find alternatives and start reusing those things to redefine ourselves in our own ways and coming up with our own tools. And this touches on the issue of the diaspora to say, doesn't matter where we are as Africans, we need to take it upon ourselves to make it loud and clear that we are African and we are the greatest. So whether it's Madam Miriam sitting in the US or someone else sitting in Malaysia, it doesn't matter where we are, we must keep the fire and the passion for Africa going. And remember that we remain the greatest and we have enough evidence that supports that. Sorry, so I need to focus there. Okay. I grew up knowing Arthur Ashe, but for a long time I only knew Arthur Ashe as a Black man who was who was playing the Wimbledon. So I looked up to him because I was interested in tennis, but no one was telling me the origins, the history of why he was there in Britain as a Black person. And that was a missing link. And we need to start making sure that we tell those stories. If you have Muhammad Ali, who's in the US, what is his history? What is his African history? What is the background? And those are the stories that we tell so that we're able to build a legacy and generational wisdom and passion amongst Africans and our people going forward. This is an example of a story of Zolabad, where a South African woman who went, original from South Africa, you know, who went and participated in marathons to run away because she couldn't do it. She didn't want to do it from South Africa, and there were more opportunities for her in Britain. So when she was there was a lot of opposition against her, but her story has to be told from her perspective, because as an African woman who was now based in Britain, the story here is that she was running away from Africa. She was a sellout, yet as South Africans and Africans, we are looking at her as a hero, as someone who's saying she can actually go and challenge people, doesn't matter where they were in the world. So we have to tell our stories, or else propaganda can just be perpetuated continuously. Taking the story of the Kenyan runners, there's a point where they were known as people who are running barefooted. So and no one was going deep into the excellence of their running, their strength, their history, their diet. The emphasis was more like, oh, okay, maybe because they run on the mountains. There's a whole lot more to that. And when they get to join other countries, they become, whether it's European countries, they get celebrated as, oh, he's a French runner, or he's a British runner. No, he's an African runner who's based in France, who's being paid well in France. Can we now get the real story? And only we can tell stories about ourselves and not expect anyone else to do it. I will go quickly. Same point. This also includes our liberation against apartheid. The whole world supported us, but whose story was it? Who's telling the story? We have to tell the story, or else we'll always have a situation where we'll have the World Cup as South Africa, and then we'll have Shakira. I mean, as much as she has a beautiful voice, but anyone else could have been brought in. So we said it's time for Africa, but Africa must be part of the narrative. Africa must tell the story, whichever way. It must not always be from a different perspective that we don't identify with. Sorry, my cursor likes to keep going back. Okay. This is an example of, because we are talking about the World Cup. In the past, I used to go to, because I've always been a sports fan. I recognized this when I was very young. I just happened to be a girl, and I was caught in a stampede in this stadium in Orlando East. We used to go to the stadium. This was the biggest stadium in the township in South Africa, compared to what we already have. A lot of work has been done. And historically, if you look at this, if you look at the pictures, you might just see a picture that is doom. But the story that I would tell about this picture, in spite of the fact that this was the only grandstand, the only stadium, the biggest stadium in the whole of South Africa, I don't know if there was anything bigger. What I remember is that the passion that people always had for the soccer, for their favorite soccer teams, the dance and the cultural moves that would happen before a soccer game. Because after the soccer game, it was almost impossible to have people to dance together, because the one team has lost, people want to fight, so everyone is upset, or those who are happy, they become happy on one corner. So, but before the game starts, that would be an opportunity for cultural activities. And those are the type of things we need to bring back, to say soccer does not have to be the way it's done, where it's all in the stadium. There could be an element of arts and culture that comes with it. So for me, these are the stories that we need to tell and go deeper, as in why people are so passionate, and what is it about the sport. You can't say, oh, people just love soccer. There must be more, and it's all about who we are, how it brings us together as a people. And the other thing I remember about the olden days of soccer is that this was before we had to play with the world. Our soccer stars were always praised for the crazy dance move and creative moves that they would make. And it was all about how you danced around the ball, how you stood on your head. It was not always about scoring the goals. Ultimately, it's good when you do, but it was not about just the goals. It's about how you actually entertained people going there. But unfortunately now, if you had to do this, you might just lose, because Germany has a very clear way of just grabbing the ball, running to the one goal post and scoring. So though we now have to adapt to how things are done, we can still go back and capture in history, capture the stories, the heroes of the past, the young people who played soccer in a way that no one does now. I know Brazil has those. And those can still be part of our narrative while we're still doing things the way it's being done now, where we're just chasing scores and not entertaining. And the point I'm making here is that it doesn't matter where you come from, where you've been, as I said with Jesse Owen, doesn't matter where you come from. At the end of the day, it is your story. It is your story for you to tell. It is not, it is not a story for someone else to tell, and doesn't matter where you live, your socioeconomic conditions, your story is your story. And that is a story, as it changes, that is a narrative and the background that you need to share with people, because when people see you at the next level in a development, they need to know and understand what it took for you to be where you are, so that they don't take it for granted, especially the next generation. This is a community in Orlando East, and that's some of the parts in Soweto. Yes, doesn't matter where you are, you have a story to tell. The world will give you access to all sorts of glitz and glam. You will be able to be, as it's happening in South Africa. But while we are able to carry the South African flag as the Miss Universe there, or like our minister, or we are representing us at a high level, but your story also counts and makes you unique. Doesn't matter which part of the world you come from. So as Africa, we must carry our stories, and that's what will sell us, continuously. And what I say is, he who writes the story owns the story. He who writes the story owns the story. So we need to use technology to write our stories. We need to use whatever means that are there to write our stories and tell our stories, so that we don't only, we don't just own the story, or else it becomes a story and becomes his story. And most of the time women get left out. And these are some of the issues that came out from today's session, that even as women, we need to start getting to a space where we change the narrative, we tell the stories, and we have to take it upon ourselves, or else no one else is going to do it for us. So he who tells the story becomes their story. And that is why we don't know enough of our African queens and kings and empresses who have actually run the world. So we need to start telling the story boldly, without any reservations. You know, I always call this a haka dilemma. You know, when we started getting to rugby as South Africa, we used to be excited about the All Blacks, because the All Blacks, first of all, their name is called the All Blacks. So you are assuming that the New Zealand team is an All Black team. So when that time they didn't even have enough indigenous people participating, they didn't even have one at all. So it was interesting that we had an All Black team that was an all white team. And then they were doing the haka. And we could see from an African perspective that, but this is all African, or it's indigenous. It didn't make sense. So that, as much as that was, it's a very interesting, and it was positive and well received. The problem is that we can easily get to a point where we need to, where we become defined, and we have, this is what you call cultural, you know, when people take what is of yours and they make it theirs, which is fine, but we need to participate. We need to share in what is ours. We need to take action to ensure that there's equity. We need to make sure that identity is carried with pride, even if we get into sports, whether it's a cultural dance, a cultural music, those things must come back. And then we'll still continue. So victory doesn't mean we have to lose our identity and move away from equity. So visions like this will then keep our young people, keep the next generation to say, okay, we can be in sport without losing who we are. You know, we sing Shosholoza, we sing the drums. I mean, we don't have to appreciate, our kids mustn't only appreciate who they are from the Lion King. There's a whole lot more that's deeper than the Lion King. And that can be brought in the space of tourism, in the space of sports. And it is our job to do that. And we must continue to break the ceilings, the glass ceilings. And I'm just touching on this because this guy historically, Ntate Mafokate, he's only the best African horse riding. He started as someone who was cleaning the stables. He's got trophies. He's done exceptionally well. He started a school where we take young people who are now doing vaulting, who are doing horse riding, and the South African team is the best in Africa. And they recently, in July, last month, they were in, I think they're still there, they were in Germany competing with one of the best in vaulting. And, you know, this shows you that we must never limit ourselves, but the story of where we come from, if we are doing well in some way, we are doing it as Africans because of our strength. We mustn't now say, oh yeah, we all play white, and the energy and the passion must still come in, because that's what distinguishes us. And that's what will actually take a child who comes from a poor background and make them a hero, like Ntate Mafokate. And these are the children who are involved in the sport that I coach. We're in Pretoria here. So must never limit ourselves, because our dreams and our passion are bigger than the system. That we must also decolonize ourselves, our names, redefine ourselves in our own terms. We must continue to do that. And then I always talk about my son. He has a passion for archery. I've never thought, he's had a passion for archery since he could hold a cup. And I think it's inborn, that and golf. And I'm using this as an example to say, identify the passion that we have. And then we realize that things are natural. So we must never get to a point where we say only certain things are African, whatever it is there, wisdom, ancient wisdom, go back to as far as you can to see what we're able, what we're capable of, and nurture that, because that is who we are. We are not borrowing it from anywhere else. And that is why no sport should be classified as, oh, this is not an African sport, we must not limit ourselves. And with archery, I'm still hoping that we'll have more African teams doing well in archery, because it's one of those sports that are big in Africa. So we must never limit ourselves, because it's in us. Okay. As global players, I'm not going to go into those Cinderella sports, but I'm going to go back and end it on that note and say that as a people, that we are now global players. And being global players means that there are no limits, and therefore we must ensure that in whatever industry, tourism, in sports, music, as a people, arts and culture, any space, we must define ourselves. We must never have a situation where we are continuously being defined by others and we don't own our story and our history. I'd like to end it there for the sake of time, and thank you for listening.
Awesome. Thank you, Juliet.
Yes, thank you. I want to stop sharing. Thank you. It's difficult to moderate your own speech. Nichelle, please moderate that part.
Okay, so
Nichelle.
Thank you everyone for coming here today. This is African Youth in Tourism Seminar Series. The theme for today.
Sorry. I don't mean to be rude. Do you want us to take any one or two comments, and then you can present the last part? Nichelle,
okay, yes, sorry about that. You're supposed to have questions.
I'm asking Madam Nichelle to moderate that part, and then I'll have to introduce you as the next speaker.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julia, for your wonderful presentations, very detailed, and definitely sports help to activate the mind, and that's physiologically. So definitely, I really enjoy you bringing that to the forefront about sports, as well as the we need to visit more of the diet, so that way the children can actually operate at their optimum levels. So yes, indeed. Thank you. I want to keep it short, I know. So if somebody else had a comment, that'd be great.
Yeah. Any comments? Okay. If not, we can, okay. If not, I can, so I'm trying to close my screen, but other than that, I'd like, Joshua, you're going to be our next speaker, and thank you for the time, everyone, those who are still on the chat. Joshua will continue. He's the president of the African Youth in Tourism. He's one of the founding members of the host organization that is hosting us. And he will introduce himself briefly and then continue with his presentation. Thank you so much. Joshua, do I have to, are you able to share your screen, or do I need to close mine?
You can close your screen, so I'll go ahead if you.
Okay.
Yes. So thank you everyone for being here. Today is the International World Youth Day. That is why we're here today, celebrating the youth, and African Youth in Tourism Network decided to host this event, which our theme for today is role models for Pan-African youths. So my name is Ibewike Joshua. I am based here in Ghana. I descend from Nigeria, and I am one of the founders of African Youth in Tourism, which was founded last year, 2021, July, during the African Youth in Tourism Summit organized by United Nations World Tourism Organization, African Tourism Partners, Ghana Tourism Authority, MasterCard Foundation, and other key partners. So far, so good. We've been able to stay together up to this period, and staying together, coming together is just the beginning. And gradually, we keep making progress, doing what we want to do, carrying out our mandate, which our vision is to empower African youths in tourism or via tourism, using the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, which is partnership for the goals. So regarding today's presentation, I'll first of all like to define who a role model is. A role model is a person looked by others as an example that can be imitated in various aspects. So, secondly, we have the word youth. Our theme is role models for Pan-African youths. So the word youth refers to a person that is between childhood and adult age. Then finally, the word Pan-Africanism means the principle or advocacy for the political union of all indigenous inhabitants of Africa. But looking at Pan-Africanism today, we don't just look at Africa, we look beyond Africa, because we have some of our descendants of Africa living in the diaspora in the in the North American continent, South American continent, Europe, Asia, different parts of the world, some other lands that are yet to be discovered. Africans are actually there. So looking at that as a whole, the word pan includes all of us together as Africans. I would like to present on Mutoni Wakrima. So let me share my screen. I'll be reading some information about who Mutoni Wakrima is. She's actually from Kenya. Let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay, good.
Yes, we have to see it now.
Good. So, like it says, as it says here, Mutoni Wakrima was born in 1931. She's a retired top-ranking female fighter in the Kenya Land and Freedom Army of the Mau Mau uprising in the 1950s. Few Mau Mau women became active fighters, and Mutoni is the only woman to have attained the Mau Mau rank of Field Marshal. Her early life, Mutoni Wakrima was born in Nerusha, Kenya in 1930. She was born with the name Mutoni Wihuni from her grandfather. When Mutoni was very little, her family moved to carrying you for a better life. She remembered this journey as long and hard for her as a young girl. They had to travel 15-kilometer half on a small donkey with no saddle, and the other half she had to walk herself. During her time in carrying you, Mutoni first learned about Christianity and became infatuated with it. As a child, she went into the missionary tent with other children to learn about Christianity. By the time she was 8 years old, she started her long-standing devotion to the church. Her first real taste of racial violence between Kenyan settlers and the Kikuyu came when she was doing child labor at the time of when the white people came to settle in Kenya. During this period of her life, she saw verbal and emotional abuse, physical violence towards Kikuyu men, and sexual violence towards Kikuyu women. This is what drove her resolve to fight for independence, to free her people and her country. In 1948, she met her husband, Mutungi Gichuhi, who was a young cook working at the same settler farm as she did. After their wedding, the couple moved to the edge of Nyeri town and started their own life. Mutoni became a trader, her husband became a cook. Looking at the Mau Mau uprising, which made Mutoni Wakrima famous and a role model for Africans. During the war and battle, Mutoni Krima first took the Mau Mau oath in 1952. From then on, she had to balance being part of the revolution with family responsibilities. She started out by using her connections as a trader to get information and events that were happening to the Mau Mau that were in the forest. She also organized the oaths of other people. This was extremely hard on her because at this time, her husband didn't take the oaths and she felt guilty lying to him. Because since she took the oath, she has to keep some secrets regarding the Mau Mau uprising, the battles, how they decided their strategies and all of that. So she had to be lying to him if he was to be asking any questions regarding the Mau Mau. This changed in 1953 when her husband, Mutsungi Guchi, finally decided that he wanted to take the oath and joined Mau Mau. That same day, Mutoni Krima took him and a goat to swear his oath to the Mau Mau fighters. That was the last time that she would see her husband for 11 years as he lived in the forest until 1963. The next day, her husband, who was an the next day, the chief, Muhoya, who was an African colonial chief in Kenya, sent soldiers to Mutoni Krima's house to check on her husband, but he was not at home since he had already traveled. So the soldiers which were sent under Chief Muboya, when they questioned her, she told them that her husband went to get eggs and had not returned. So they eventually left. 3 days later, they came back with the suspicion that he had joined the Mau Mau fighters to get information that they needed. To get information that they needed, they had to beat her relentlessly. In an interview, she describes this by saying, "I was beaten up. They kicked me with their boots until I could hardly move. Blood oozed from my nose reels. They left me unconscious." She credits this moment as the turning point that made her want to not just be in the village helping the Mau Mau fighters, but to be a forest fighter. This was when she took off the forest, and after a week by herself, she found the Mau Mau fighters in the forest. She started her time in the forest as a non-combatant, like most of the other women. She just cooked and looked after the soldiers while getting them ammunition and grenades from the market. But she quickly impressed her fellow soldiers with her shooting skills and quick thinking. Before long, she was leading her own platoons and helped break the gender norms of the Mau Mau fighters. In an interview in 2015, a woman veteran soldier says, "There was one woman called Mutoni. I was with her. She feared nothing. She used to go to war with men because she did not fear. She was a dangerous woman. Even men feared her." Mutoni was one of the female leaders of the movement, and she rose up the ranks quickly. However, not all the promotions of rank had to do with combat. Mau Mau fighters were also rewarded people for non-military achievements and to encourage other people. She was promoted a few times because when a shortage of food was a problem, she went out of the way to get food for the movement and for her troops. Acts like this, as well as her skill in combat, was why she was promoted to Field Marshal. She was also a great medic and took care of the injured. Field Marshal Mutoni got This part is looking at her trading in ivory. Mutoni traded ivory. Ivory is gotten from elephants, and it is a very precious item. Even till today, people actually pay huge amounts of money to get ivory. So Field Marshal Mutoni got a license to trade in ivory in 1966, recovering and selling thugs the Mau Mau had buried around Mount Kenya, having hunted elephants for food and ivory during the uprising. Her permissions to collect and sell wild ivory ended in 1976 when ivory trades was banned. Her later life, after the war ended in 1956, Mutoni and other Mau Mau fighters had a very hard time getting back into society. As the Mau Mau group was still seen as a radical organization, and after the war, they were put in detention camps and beat as others tried to create their new life. Mutoni was one of those who tried to create a new life, but she was struggling. She and her husband had no money or capital, and although they were part of the people who fought for independence, they did not get any of the benefits of the new government. People forgot and didn't care about them, so they had to struggle begging for food on the street and sleeping next to toilets. Until Mutoni was fed up with the situation, she went right to the mayor of Nairobi, and according to her biography, this is what happened next. When I walked to his office, I didn't first talk to him. I just lay down on the mat. He rose up and asked me what was my problem, or what my problem was. I told him I was not going to leave until he gave me a place to stay, and if none was available, he was to leave me sleeping on his office mat as he went home. After this, the mayor found her the place that she lives today in Nyeri, where she stays to this day, because Mutoni is still alive today. Today, she is still alive, and although not a lot of people know who she is or what she has done, she gets visitors who like to hear her story. In 1990, she served as a nominated councillor in Nyeri County Council in Kenya. In 1998, President Daniel Arap Moi awarded her a medal for distinguished service in 2014. President Uhuru Kenyatta awarded her the Head of State Commendation. Currently, Mutoni Wakrima lives in Nyeri suburb. Kenya is my only child, she told the Daily Nation in an interview in 2012, referencing a miscarriage during her time in the forest, which left her unable to conceive. As of 2013, she still wore her hair in the long dreadlocks that she had grown while she was hiding from the British. She has said that she will not cut her hair until she sees the benefits of independence. April 2nd, 2022, Mutoni cut down her dreadlocks. The operation was carried out by Mama Ngina Kenyatta, the wife of Kenya's first president, Jomo Kenyatta, and the mother of Uhuru Kenyatta, another Kenyan president. Ngina Kenyatta led the celebration as the two reminisced their youthful life, friendship, and freedom fighting. Justifying the move to shave her 6-foot-long dreadlocks, Mutoni spoke against reports alleging that Mama Ngina compelled her to shave. The freedom fighter addressed the issues on Monday, April 4 this year, 2 days after independence. Mutoni underlined that she resorted to shaving her hair to signify that Kenya had finally gained full independence. Mama Ngina, speaking after shaving the freedom fighter, stated that she was highly honored to be selected to cut the dreadlocks. Some information that is left out here includes that Mutoni, during the war against the British, during the colonial era when the British came to invade Kenya, Mutoni was the one who supported Jomo Kenyatta, the first president of Kenya, to go to the Britain, to go to England, to the UK, to study, and her purpose was for him to come back home to Kenya, to use the knowledge he has acquired via education to be able to set the Kenyans free from the British oppression using educational power. So that makes Muthoni not just a physical combatant. As it was also mentioned, she was a very intelligent woman. She had a very high thinking brain power. So other examples of Pan-African heroes include Haile Selassie and Marcus Garvey. I would have made some few information regarding these people, but we have run out of time, and I really want to appreciate everyone that has stayed this long with us. So I believe we've had a very productive conversation. We've learned some things today. If you have any feedback, any questions to ask, you can go ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joshua. Thank you for your presentation. And also just to highlight that it is beautiful that you're sharing about Muthoni. I want to call her queen, because for me that those are the role of the queen, the hero Muthoni. And it just highlights also linked to other presentations, the strength of survival and the ability to survive under the most difficult circumstances that we have. So if we've done it in the past, we can still continue doing it as a people. So we must never give up. And also that that we should be able to hold our society and provide what is needed. It doesn't matter what gender or what race or where we come from, because we all have the gift to do the great things that are needed for our time. So the people who are right for the time we are those people. We are the Muthomis. We are the Empress of Ethiopia. We are the Winnie Mandelas. We are the Princess Nikiwe. We are all that. So we must never think the best are yet to come. We are those people. We must just play that role. With all those words, I just want to thank you for highlighting her tenacity and also emphasizing the importance for us to self-define, for self-definition as a people. And thank you. And also just to add, I want to thank everyone who was able to stay on the call for this long. Thank you, Hendrik, who's here as our host. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Nichelle. Tapelo, welcome, and thank you. But at this stage, I just want to check if there's still one more comment from anyone. If there is, I wanted to ask, I see Joseph is not on the line. We did say till 9 o'clock. So as soon as it hit 9 o'clock, he hit the road. I'm hoping he's still here. But if not, please let's take any comments on what Joshua presented, because I was also truly inspired, and I'm glad we left his presentation for last, because it's good to leave such platforms with some form of inspiration. As I did earlier on, I'm going to take it upon myself and then ask Madam Marianne to make a comment that will lead us to closure. I am picking up on you, and yeah, again.
For the closure, I'm glad.
No, 1 second before you go. I see Hendrik wants to say something, and then I'll give you a chance. Sorry. Hendrik, please go ahead.
Yes. I just want to ask the team tonight, you know, to identify those projects, those catalytic projects, those projects that they think is going to ignite our vision, mission, and objectives that we are setting for ourselves in the sector, dealing with the youth. My email is in the chat. Please give me those 1, 2, or 3 points that you would like to share with us, and I will share it with the rest of the Unity Net. But you know, we also need to go over to action now and make some things happen. And we've identified catalytic projects as a very essential part of what we want to achieve. And the one thing that we want to do is we want to take everybody with us, leave nobody behind. So I would like to afford everybody the opportunity to spam me with your catalytic projects, and I will share it with the right people. And let's see what can happen if we all take hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Hendrik, for that. I also want to say that as part of the executive team for African youth in tourism, we'll take it upon ourselves to do a summation of what came out of here from all the presentations. We'll go through the recording and we'll contact every individual who participated. And based on that, Joshua, myself, Regina, Queen Mother Nina, and anyone else who's part of that working team can then provide that summary and then identify those partnership opportunities with UnityNet and other organizations such as the Global Peace Let's Talk and other organizations. So yeah, we'll definitely move into action. Thank you for that point. Madam Miriam, please, yes, you can go ahead. Yours will be a closing remark.
Okay, I'm glad we ended on a note of we need to make sure that we recognize and make sure that we remember everyone, even though someone may not, in our opinion or in someone else's opinion, depending on who's writing the history, was viewed as that grand or that great. But it is our job to make sure that we educate on who we are, who we're going to be, and where we come from. So I'm glad that we ended on a note of we need to make sure everyone is recognized in his or her state of what he or she has done for our people.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. And that is a spirit that we want to take forward and also supports what Hendrik is saying, that doesn't matter what input you had, what angle, every input, every angle that's been given here contributes towards the solutions that we all seek in our communities, in our world, on our continent, as Africa broadly, and anyway in the world, in the diaspora. So every input is important. We leave no one behind, and every perspective is critical. And then the summation, Joshua, that we will do, and as a way forward for our network, will be putting actions. I know you are definitely going to be the last one to close. Will be to put those things into action and look at how we partner around those projects and link them to the catalytic and other programs that are happening on other networks. Thank you so much for that closer, Madam Miriam. I knew I could count on you. And thank you for Nichelle for being a co-moderator. Thank you for allowing me to bulldoze you. And thank you for everyone who played a very critical role. Joshua, I know, and Tapelo, thank you for having joined and having stayed on. We'll continue talking, my brother. I see you are just next door. We'll continue staying in touch. Please join the network. Yes, please do join the network to stay, and everyone else to be part of the discussions going forward. Joshua?
Okay. Okay, so
before you say anything, Nisha, can we move to closure? I'm going to give Joshua to close in one sentence as a co-moderator. Can we move to that?
Yes, I moved to close.
awesome.
I'm very happy to say that. Yeah, that's good, Joshua.
Yeah,
go ahead and let's move to closure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Actually, if you notice, I was freezing while I was talking because I'm sitting in the cold. It's very cold here. I'm very close to the beach. So I want to thank everyone once again. Heinrich, Marian Allen, Green Tourism Initiative Africa, Nichelle, and Thapelo. We are all warriors. You're all great people. We're all Africans. The world is ours. God has given us this world to make it great. And one more thing before I make my closing statement is I would like this recording to be available so that we can share it within our networks for those who couldn't join us. So I'll be looking forward to Juliet for you to share the links if you're able to get it from Heinrich. And my closing statement is going this way. As Mutoni fought both physically, mentally, spiritually, the way she looked at Kenya as a child, she lost her womb for Kenya. That is how we're going in that spirit, that what we want to achieve, our dreams, we're going to fight for it. Nobody can stop it. It is our God-given mandate. So we go in that spirit of Mutoni, and we're going to live long the way she's living today, and God is going to go with us. So yes. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joshua. Hendrik, before you close, I just feel thank you again for that. We'll carry that with us. Tapelo, please, you can say your goodbyes, and Green Tourism, you can say your goodbyes. I think it's only fair that we all do our salutations, saying that we
Absolutely.
all did. Yeah, Tapelo and Green Tourism, do your salutations. We want to go. We're not going until you say goodbye, Tapelo and Green Tourism. Tapelo, go ahead, Abuti.
Okay.
Again, I'm putting you on the spot.
Thanks again for everything. I've learned a lot just by being in this session, and there's nothing that I regret, and it's just growing me every day. You know, they say that when you as a curious mind, if you do not learn every day, then you have no sense of direction. So this has given me so much light and given me some time to self-reflect as well in regards to my identity as a young African child and my direction. Because so many other times we try to kind of like cut down our Africanness to try to sort of fit in a way in the modern society. But this now has given us, or given me, a fresh perspective of the importance of identity and how it's very imperative for us to tell African stories, because they don't only help us identify with other stories, but they also help us to shape ourselves in our modern world.
Yes.
So yeah.
I almost said amen, but amen to that.
Yeah,
amen. Thank you so much. I'm glad I put you in the corner again.
It's probably my name.
Pardon?
I said it's probably my name. That's why you probably said amen.
No, it's not your name. It's all that you said. It's the spirit and the anointing and the way you summarize.
Inspiration.
Yes, thank you so much. It's just you must realize you step beyond just the name. Who is
the spirit of Mutoni?
Yes, Tapelo means prayer, by the way, for those who don't know. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, that's what Tapelo means.
Interesting. Yeah. The spirit of Mutoni has gotten into everyone, I believe.
Don't start a culture. We hear where you're going, Joseph. No, it's okay. No, we honor Mutoni, but we know, yes, and everyone else that's been presented. Who is Green Tourism? Please say something in closure.
Can you unmute yourself? Thank you so much, Green Tourism Initiatives.
Going once? Oh, yeah, we go.
All right, okay. So Green Tourism, this is Festus. With AHIABGA Ghana, yes.
Oh, okay. Welcome.
Yes.
Yes, Festus is our customer care representative.
Right.
Okay. Yes, you can just do your salutations, please.
Well, I must say that I appreciate everybody for the presentation, and I must say that I've really learned a lot, and I'm trusting that we'll be able to, like my brother from Uganda said, we need to continue the networking, and then we see the progress of tourism in Africa. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And well done to your country for the great work that they're doing in positioning Africa culturally and otherwise. The whole of Africa is also learning from what Ghana is doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done and keep it up. With those words, I would like to thank everyone as a moderator for your patience and your participation. I think we can all say goodbye at this stage. Hendrik, you are the one who has the power to close. Please don't close until everyone has left. That's the African way. If you are the host, everyone has to leave the house before you shut the door. So
bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll have the next session soon.
Awesome.
Yes. Henry cannot close and I cannot leave until everyone is out. Have a great weekend and we'll see you soon. Bless you all. Hi, Hendrik. Okay, is that Green Tourism is still there? So the last one to leave will end up singing for us. Okay, I am assuming we can go. My brother, thank you so much. And Joshua, I think we are all good. We can all go. And thank you, Hendrik. Thank you, Joshua. And we'll talk on the other side. We'll regroup soon. Okay, say something, Mr. Van der Merwe.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Okay. Good night. Thank you, Joshua.
You pull the plug now. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. You can leave. Yeah, you can close now. Thank you.